Recording in progress.
Sabi nila ito na. Okay. The session is called to order. Please rise for the singing of the national anthem.
Sa man
remain standing for the invocation to be led by the Honorable Jefferson Conghun from the 1st District of Zambales.
Our merciful Father, we begin today by giving you thanks. Your love endures forever. It never fails. As we begin our session, we pray for all the members of this house. As we gather together today, fill our minds and our mouths with praise to you. Guard our thoughts and our hearts that we may glorify you in every aspect of our lives. We ask for your guidance, wisdom, and support. Help us to engage in meaningful discussions and reveal yourselves to us and bring us closer to you that we may clearly hear your voice. In our daily work as leaders, may we continue to promote things that honor you. Strengthen us all with your grace and wisdom. Lord, continue to remind us that all that we do here today, all that we accomplish, is for the pursuit of truth, for the greater glory of you, and for the service of our people. May your love surround us, your spirit guide us, your voice cheer us, your peace calms us, your shield protect us, and your wisdom arm us. In Jesus' name, amen.
Majority Leader.
Madam Speaker, we are in receipt of a letter dated Feb 1, 2023 from Representative Rex Gatchalian of the 1st District of Valenzuela City, informing the Speaker of the House of his resignation as member of the House of Representatives and as chairperson of the Committee on Local Government, in view of his appointment as Secretary of the Department of Social Welfare and Development. Madam Speaker, I move that we accept the resignation of Representative Rex Gatchalian and for the Representative Gatchalian to be dropped from the roll of members effective immediately.
Is there any objection? The chair hears none. The motion is approved. Majority Leader.
I move that we call the roll.
The Secretary General is directed to call the roll of its members.
Roll call of members. Honorable Representatives, Abalos, Abante, Abunda, Acharon, Asidre, Acop, Adyong, Advincula, Agaraw, Alba, Albano, Almario, Almonte, Alonte, Alvarez Jose, Alvarez Mercedes, Alvarez Pantaleon, Amante, Amatong, Angara, Aquino, Aquino Magsaysay, Arbison, Arenas, Arrogancia, Asistio, Atayde, Omentado, Balindong, Barba, Barbers, Baronda, Barzaga, Baskug, Bautista, Bautista Lim, Benitez, Bernos, Bilyones, Biron, Bolilia, Bondok, Bongalon, Bordado, Bosita, Briones, Brosas, Buhain, Bulot Begtang, Bustos, Cabredo, Cagas, Kahayon Uy, Calderon, Calixto, Campos, Kawagdan, Cardema, Cari, Castro Franz, Castro Jean, Celeste, Chan, Chato, Chua, Chungalaw, Ko Angelica Natasha, Ko Elizaldi, Ko Pilar, Ko Juanco Jaime, Ko Juanco Mark, Colada, Colliantes, Corvera, Cruz Ambrosio, Cruz Ricardo, Cua, Quaresma, Dagoo, Dalipe, Dalog, Dayanghirang, Daza, De Jesus, De Venecia, Defensor, Del Mar, De Los Santos, Dimaporo Muhammad Khalid, Dimaporo City Amina, Dionisio, Domingo, Duavit, Duhali, Duterte, D. Faustino Ino, D. Faustino Michael, D. Ian Paul, Ecleo, Emano, Enciso, Enverga, Escudero, Espares, Espina, Estrella, Udela, Farinas, Fernandez, Ferrer Antonio, Ferrer Juliet Marie, Flores, Fortes, Frasco, Fresnedi, Fuentebella, Galeos, Garcia Albert, Garcia Dante, Garcia Jose Arturo, Garcia Maria Angela, Garcia Pablo Jan, Garcia Vincent, Guardiola, Garin, Gasataya, Gato, Go Ed Christopher, Go Mark, Goles, Gomez, Gonzaga, Gonzales Aurelio, Gonzales Neptali, Gonzales Sandro, Goriseta, Wico, Gintu, Gulyas, Gutierrez, Hagidorn, Haresco, Hataman, Hernandez, Herrera, Horibata, Javier, Ko Olga Ara, Ko Ricardo, Ko Wilton, Konghun, Labad-Labad, Lacson, Lacson Noel, Lagman, Lagon Daphne, Lagon Sani, Lara, Lazatin, Lee, Legarda, Libanan, Lim Kaichong, Loyola, Luistro, Lumayag, Makapagal Arroyo, Maceda, Madrona, Magsino, Malapitan, Mangawang, Maniquis, Manuel, Marañon, Marcoleta, Marcos, Mariano Hernandez, Marinio, Marquez, Martinez, Mastura, Matibag, Matugas, Mendoza, Mercado, Mercado Revilla, Miguel, Momo, Morden, Nava, Nisay, Noel, Nograles, Juan Fidel, Nograles, Margarita, Nolasco, Uaminal, Olaso, Olivares, Ongchuan, Ordanes, Ortega, Uwano Dizon, Padiernos, Paduano, Paglas, Palma, Panaligan, Pancho, Panotes, Pascual, Peña, Pimentel, Plaza, Pleito, Primicia Sagabas, Pumaren, Puno, Kimbo, Rama, Recto, Regencia, Revilla Brian, Revilla Ramonjolo, Reyes, Rilio, Rivera, Robes, Rodriguez Eulogio, Rodriguez Rufus, Roman, Romero, Romualdez Ferdinand Martin, Romualdez Ieda Marie, Romualdo, Romulo, Roque, Sakdalan, Sagarbaria, Sakaluran, Salceda, Sali, Salimbangon, Salo, Salvame, Santos, Saulug, Silverio, Singson Richel, Singson Ronald, Singson Mihan, Solon, Soriano, Suwan, Suansing Horacio, Suansing Micaela Angela, Suarez, Talyado, Tamayo, Tambunting, Tan Joseph, Tan Keith Micah, Tan Reynolds Michael, Tan Samir, Tan Stephen James, Tan Tambut, Tan Shai, Tan Watco, Tariela, Teodoro, Teves Arnolfo, Teves Jose, Tiangco, Tieng, Tolentino, Tulfo Jocelyn, Tulfo Ralph Wendell, Tupas, Tutor, T, Umali, Unabia, Ungab, Valeriano, Valmayor, Vargas, Vargas Alfonso, Velasco, Veloso Tuazon, Vergara, Verzosa, Villa, Villafuerte Luis Raymond, Villafuerte Miguel Luis, Villanueva, Villar, Villaraza Suarez, Villarica, Violago, Yap Christiantel, Yap Christopherson, Yap Edvic, Yap Eric, Yu Divina Grace, Yu Jazel Victoria, Yulo, Zamora Amparo Maria, Zamora Maria Carmen, Zamora Isabel Maria, Zubiri. Madam Speaker, the roll call shows that 311 members responded to the call.
With 311 members responding to the call, the chair declares the presence of a quorum. Majority Leader.
Madam Speaker, in the interest of the people of the 1st District of Valenzuela City, in view of the appointment of their representative, the Honorable Rex Gatchalian, as Secretary of the Department of Social Welfare and Development, I move that we designate Representative Wilfrido Mark M. Enverga as the legislative caretaker of the 1st District of Valenzuela City.
Is there any objection? The chair hears none. The motion is approved. Majority Leader.
Madam Speaker, considering that copies of Journal Number 46, dated January 31st, 2023, and Journal Number 47, dated February 1, 2023, were already distributed to the members, I move that we dispense with the reading of the same and approve said journals.
There is a motion. Is there any objection? The chair hears none. The motion is approved.
Madam Speaker, there being no further corrections to the journal, I move for its approval as corrected.
Is there any objection? The chair hears none. The journal numbers 46 and 47 is now approved. Majority Leader.
Madam Speaker, I move that we now proceed with the reference of business and request that the Secretary General be directed to read the titles of the bills and resolutions on first reading, as well as communications and committee reports.
The Secretary General is directed to read the titles of bills and resolutions and committee reports.
Reference of business, bills on first reading, House Bill 6995, expanding the franchise area of the Davao Light and Power Company Incorporated, by Representative Zamora Maria Carmen and Duhali.
To the Committee on Legislative Franchises.
House Bill 6996, creating a TESDA Training and Assessment Center in Magsaysay, Occidental Mindoro, to be known as TESDA Magsaysay Training Center.
To the Committee on Higher and
By
Technical
Representative
Education.
Tariela. House Bill 6997, converting the Tawi-Tawi Regional Agricultural College in Bongao, Tawi-Tawi, into the Tawi-Tawi State College of Agriculture, by Representative Sally.
To the Committee on Higher and Technical Education.
House Bill 6998, establishing a Register of Deeds office in Sagay City, Negros Occidental, amending the charter of the City of Sagay, by Representative Marañon.
To the Committee on Justice.
House Bill 6999, establishing the Siargao Island Cultural Center and Museum in General Luna, Surigao del Norte, by Representative Matugas.
To the Committee on Basic Education and Culture.
House Bill 7000, defining idle lands and providing incentives for local government units to collect taxes on such lands, by Representative Suarez and Villaraza Suarez.
To the Committee on Local Government.
House Bill 7001, providing for the condonation of all outstanding obligations, interest payments, value-added taxes, and other charges and power bills of the Public Utilities Department, Olongapo City, with the National Power Corporation and the Power Sector Assets and Liabilities Management Corporation, by Representative Konghun.
To the Committee on Energy.
House Bill 7002, upholding the security of tenure in government service, granting permanent appointment to qualified civil servants under casual contractual contract of service, job order, and other similar work arrangements with government agencies and instrumentalities, by Representative Recto.
To the Committee on Civil Service and Professional Regulation.
House Bill 7003, providing for comprehensive atomic regulation, creating the Philippine Atomic Regulatory Commission, by Representative Yu Jazel Victoria.
To the Special Committee on Nuclear Energy.
House Bill numbers 7015 and 7016, converting certain elementary schools in Jose Abad Santos, Davao Occidental into integrated schools, by Representative Bautista.
To the Committee on Basic Education and Culture.
House Bill number 7017, 7018, establishing national high schools in Davao Occidental, by Representative Bautista.
To the Committee on Basic Education and Culture.
House Bill 7019, providing all barangay officials, barangay tanods, members of the Lupon ng Tagapamayapa a lump sum gratuity pay and other non-monetary benefits, by Representative Plato.
To the Committee on Local Government.
House Bill 7020, establishing the National Center for Geriatric Health and Research Institute, by Representative Teves Jose.
To the Committee on Health.
House Bill 7021, strengthening the Philippine Public Library System, by Representative Teves Jose.
To the Committee on Basic Education and Culture.
House Bill 7022, strengthening local sports programs to develop young athletes, by Representative Teves Jose.
To the Committee on Youth and Sports Development.
House Bill 7023, institutionalizing quarterly tree planting activity in the Philippines, by Representative Teves Jose.
To the Special Committee on Reforestation.
House Bill 7024, creating retirement benefits and other assistance for the subsistence of farmers and fisherfolk, by Representative Teves Jose.
To the Committee on Agriculture and Food.
House Bill 7025, strengthening the Katarungang Pambarangay, by Representative Tan Keith Maika.
To the Committee on Local Government.
House Bill 7026, providing for road safety curriculum, campaign, and training, by Representative Tan Keith Maika.
To the Committee on Basic Education and Culture.
House Bill 7028, amending Chapter 17 of the Intellectual Property Code of the Philippines as amended, by Representative
To
Salceda.
the Committee on Trade and Industry.
House Bill 7029, converting the Palanan Station Hospital in Palanan, Isabela to a Level 1 hospital under the direct control and supervision of the DOH, increasing its bed capacity from 10 beds to 50 beds by Representative Go Ed Christopher.
To the Committee on Health.
House Bill 7030 to develop, protect, and promote the livestock, poultry, and dairy industries and their value chain to provide for a livestock, poultry, and dairy competitive enhancement fund by Representative Salo.
To the Committee on Agriculture and Food.
House Bill 7031, modernizing the Philippine Institute of Volcanology and Seismology by Representative Salo.
To the Committee on Science and Technology.
House Bill 7032, establishing the West Aklan Special Economic Zone and West Aklan, creating the West Aklan Special Economic Zone Authority by Representative Haresco.
To the Committee on Economic Affairs and the Committee on Trade and Industry.
House Bill 7033, redefining persons with disability to persons of determination and providing additional provisions for their empowerment by Representatives Suarez and Villaraza Suarez.
To the Special Committee on Persons with Disabilities.
House Bill 7034, regulating the operation of motorcycles for hire by Representative Chua.
To the Committee on Transportation.
House Bill 7035, amending the Legal Education Reform Act of 1993, creating for the purpose a legal scholarship and return service program by Representative Bongalon.
To the Committee on Higher and Technical Education.
House Bill 7036, prohibiting discrimination on the basis of sexual orientation or gender identity or expression and providing penalties therefor by Representative Olivares.
To the Committee on Women and Gender Equality.
House Bill 7037, providing all barangay officials, including barangay tanots, members of the Lupong Tagapamayapa, barangay health workers, and barangay daycare workers, a lump sum retirement pay equivalent to 1-year honorarium by Representative Olivares.
To the Committee on Local Government.
House Bill number 7038, promoting and recognizing bicycles as an alternative mode of transportation by Representative Olivares.
To the Committee on Transportation.
House Bill number 7039, providing at least one public park in every city by Representative Olivares.
To the Committee on Public Works and Highways.
House Bill number 7040, providing an option for qualified elected officials to pay voluntary contribution to the government service insurance system to enable them to complete the minimum years of services by Representative Olivares.
To the Committee on Government Enterprises and Privatization.
House Bill number 7041, providing for the creation of a hospital in Gandara, Samar, to be known as the Gandara District Hospital by Representative Tan.
To the Committee on Health.
House Bill number 7042, establishing an integrated school in Gandara, Samar, to be known as Gandara Integrated School by Representative Tan.
To the Committee on Basic Education and Culture.
House Bill number 7043, strengthening the workers' right to strike, amending the Labor Code of the Philippines by Representative Mendoza.
To the Committee on Labor and Employment.
House Bill number 7044, providing for the mandatory payment of 13-month pay to government contractual and job order personnel by Representative Tolentino.
To the Committee on Appropriations.
House Bill number 7045, urging the comprehensive planning, development, and export promotion of the Moringa olifera, locally known as Malunggay, by Representative Tolentino.
To the Committee on Agriculture and Food.
House Bill number 7046, establishing the Philippine National Public Park System, by Representative Tolentino.
To the Committee on Public Works and Highways.
House Bill number 7047, including Tagum City, the island garden city of Samal, and several municipalities in Davao del Norte, and Maco, Davao de Oro, to the franchise area of the Davao Light and Power Company Incorporated, by Representative Gonzales.
To the Committee on Legislative Franchises.
House Bill number 7049, establishing the Philippine Atomic Energy Regulatory Authority and providing for a comprehensive legal framework for the utilization of nuclear energy in the Philippines, by Representative Mark Cojanco, Macapagal Arroyo, Singson Mihan, Marquez Rodriguez Rufos, Dimaporo, Muhammad Khalid, Yu Divina Grace, Salo, Marquez, Fernandez, Almario, Hagidorn, Panaligan, Lacson, Miguel, Barbers, Duabit, Silverio, Plato, Dagook, Teves Arnulfo, Yu Jaisel Victoria, D. Faustino, Arbison, Del Mar, Ferrer Juliet Marie, Estrella, Ataide, Celeste, Conjun, Acharon, Gomez, Imano, and De Jesus.
To the Special Committee on Nuclear Energy.
Resolutions. House Resolution 735, directing the House Committee on Banks and Financial Intermediaries conduct an inquiry on the alleged stolen funds from Union Bank of the Philippines arising from unauthorized banking-related transactions by Representative T.
To the Committee on Rules.
House Resolution 736, directing the House Committee on Muslim Affairs to exercise its oversight power on the compliance of the national government and the Bangsamoro Autonomous Regional Government in Muslim Mindanao to the Bangsamoro Organic Law to assess and evaluate its performance by Representative Dimaporo.
To the Committee on Rules.
House Representative 737, congratulating two-time world champion Carl Gabriel Karski Nepomuceno for winning the 2022 Mobile Legend Bang Bang M4 World Championship in Jakarta, Indonesia by Representative Matibag.
To the Committee on Youth and Sports Development.
Committee reports. Committee reports number 308, submitted by the Committee on Civil Service and Professional Regulation and House Bill number 7027.
To the Committee on Rules.
Committee reports number 309, submitted by the Committee on Tourism on House Bill number 7048.
To the Committee on Rules.
Additional reference of business. Bills on first reading. House Bill number 7050, declaring Kurhanan Falls in Igsuro, Bugasong, Antique as ecotourism site by Representative Ligarda.
To the Committee on Tourism.
House Bill number 7051, establishing an elementary school in Kaloy Ahan, Bugasong, Antique, to be known as Kaloy Ahan Elementary School by Representative Ligarda.
To the Committee on Basic Education and Culture.
House Bill number 7052, protecting senior citizens from various forms of fraud by Representative Fresnide.
To the Special Committee on Senior Citizens.
House Bill number 7053, providing another 5 years for concerned Bureau of Correction personnel to comply with minimum educational qualification and appropriate civil service eligibility requirements for appointment to the Bureau of Corrections by Representative Fresnide.
To the Committee on Justice.
House Bill number 7054, amending certain section of RA number 7309, creating a board of claims under the Department of Justice for victims of unjust imprisonment or detention and victims of violent crimes and for other purposes by Representative Fresnide.
To the Committee on Justice.
House Bill number 7055, granting St. James Broadcasting Production Corporation a franchise to construct, install, operate, and maintain radio, television broadcasting station in the Philippines by Representative Salceda.
To the Committee on Legislative Franchises.
House Bill number 7056, institutionalizing the transition of the government to e-governance by Representative Suwan.
To the Committee on Information and Communications Technology.
House Bill number 7057, institutionalizing the grant of teaching supplies allowance to public school teachers in basic education by Representative Swan.
To the Committee on Basic Education and Culture.
House Bill number 7058, strengthening further the power and functions of the Authority of the Freeport Area of Bataan by Representative Garcia.
To the Committee on Economic Affairs and the Committee on Trade and Industry.
House Bill number 7059, amending Section 5 of the Biofuel Act of 2006 by Representative Velasco and Singson Mihan.
To the Committee on Energy. Majority Leader.
Madam Speaker, I move that we acknowledge the presence of Divino C. Ilagan Jr., former President and incumbent Secretary of Mabininian Association Presidents Federation of Italy and Spain. They are the guests of Honorable Jinky Luistro from the 2nd District of Batangas.
To the guests of the Honorable Jinky Luistro, welcome to the House of Representatives. Majority Leader.
Madam Speaker, I move that we open the privilege hour.
There's a motion to open privilege hour. Is there any objection? The chair hears none. The motion is approved. Majority Leader.
Madam Speaker, I move that we recognize Representative Christopher De Venecia of the 4th District of Pangasinan for his privileged speech.
The Honorable Christopher De Venecia is recognized for his privileged speech.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, dear colleagues, masantos yung araw at kayo namin, a creative and artistic afternoon to everyone. I stand here today to celebrate Filipino artistry, what it stands for, and what it might become. Presidential Proclamation number 683 designates February as National Arts Month in recognition of the role of arts and culture in shaping society. In fact, Article 14, Section 15 of the Constitution states, "Arts and letters shall enjoy the patronage of the state. The state shall conserve, promote, and popularize that nation's historical and cultural heritage and resources, as well as its artistic creations. It is thus the duty of our government to preserve, safeguard, enrich, and evolve our climate into one that allows free artistic and intellectual property expression to shape an artistic and creative future." In the past year alone, our Filipino artists have received massive success in the field of arts. Most recently, we were made aware of veteran actress Dolly De Leon's rise to international fame with her masterful performance in The Triangle of Sadness. Many House resolutions have been filed since recognizing her achievements. Members of the Arts, Culture, and Creative Industries Bloc of the 19th Congress, or ACHIB, even chipped in for a dinner for Dolly and the members of the Academy to help increase her chances for an Oscar bid. Sadly, she missed out, but we celebrate her historical milestones nevertheless, from the Golden Globes to the forthcoming BAFTAs. For this, I thank Congressman Edward Vera Perez Maceda, Congressman Rufus Rodriguez, Congressman Kiko Benitez, Congressman Ana Veloso Tuazon, Congresswoman Linabel Villarica, former Speaker Lord Alan Velasco, Deputy Speaker Christine Singson Mihan, Congresswoman Leanda Bolilia, Congresswoman Rita Robes, Congresswoman Ria Vergara, Congressman Arjo Ataide, Congressman Brian Revilla, Congresswoman Nika Ko, Congresswoman Stella Kimbo, Congressman Angelo Marcos Barba, Congressman Mark Go, and Deputy Speaker Camille Villar for their contributions for said occasion. Similarly, Filipino-American director Kayla Abunda Galang was awarded the Short Film Grand Jury Prize at the 2023 Sundance Film Festival for When You Left Me on That Boulevard. In the Asian scene, we have artists like Bel Mariano and Jody Santa Maria Lacson, who received international recognition abroad for their work. In the performing arts, the legendary Cecile Guidote Alvarez was recently awarded at the La Mama Remake a World Gala 2022 as founder of the Philippine Educational Theater Association, or PETA, and many other Filipinos who make waves in Broadway and the West End. We look forward to Joanna Ampil playing the first ever female engineer in an upcoming UK revival of Miss Saigon. Our national dance company, Bayanihan, also achieved success by winning last year in the Chionan World Dance Festival. Also abroad, television host, recording artist, and dancer Billy Crawford won in Danse avec les Stars, or the French edition of Dancing with the Stars. In the field of literature, renowned writer Gina Apostol won the 2022 Rome Prize in Literature for her novel The Treatment of Paz. In architecture, architects Jorge Yulo and William T. were awarded by the German Design Council in their 2022 Iconic Awards, while 8 different architectural firms were shortlisted in the World Architecture Festival. Truly, the talent our Filipinos possess is world-class. However, just as there is no such thing as perfect, our current art environment and industry faces a boatload of challenges that affects the general public. Art has a bigger impact in our lives than we expect it to. Art has been a tool for soft power, such as public diplomacy and cultural exchange. Art has been used as a means to promote industry, much as how the creative industry of South Korea has taken over the world. Art has always played a significant role in history, used as a means for societal improvement. Art gives us identity. Art makes us feel things, and art makes us think. Thus, it is essential to dissect art as a craft and as an industry to see how we can address issues that each sector faces. This is what our committee, the Special Committee for Creative Industry and Performing Arts, has been undertaking since its inception in 2020 through former Speaker Alan Peter Cayetano. Presidential Proclamation number 683 makes mention of different disciplines such as visual arts, media arts, and film, which now fall under our audiovisual arts domain. Dance, music, and theater, which fall under the performing arts, literature, and architecture. So I will focus on policy reforms in these fields. Madam Speaker, dear colleagues, allow me to share to this august chamber a situationer for each sector from our committee's inquiries, or simply the state or the current state of the arts. One of our initial legislative investigations in the 18th Congress was on the state of visual arts. In 2012, the visual arts sector was found to have contributed 2.8 billion pesos to the country's GDP, according to a study conducted by the World Intellectual Property Office published in 2014. Due to the COVID-19 pandemic, our country's museums and galleries closed down, whether temporarily or permanently, and laid off employees due to drastic decrease in revenues of such establishments. Our visual artists had limited to no access to art materials that they otherwise need to sustain their trade. And even now, as the economy reopened, they remain costly. The sector had also been facing major pain points. Some of the ones brought up in the hearing were, number one, lack of opportunities in visual arts, together with lack of infrastructure and that its patrons are heavily concentrated in Metro Manila and Metro Cebu. There is a general lack of permanent art galleries in the countryside, which leads to the lack of diversity of regional material and opportunities to cultivate patronage. What exists are majority civic sector-led efforts to put up galleries. This is linked to number two, the general lack of government mechanisms to provide benefits for our artists, which we trace to the fact that there was no proper registration system for our artists for social services. And if there was, it came with all the red tape or the lack of general awareness of these processes. Number three, lack of institutional support for arts education in our schools. There were issues such as the lack of resources or equipment to educate students, or the mode of teaching was in English, which may not have been the best for our learners who might be able to grasp these concepts better in their local vernacular. Or even the general lack of prioritization of arts education vis-a-vis STEM subjects. Number four, it was very costly to repatriate artwork back to the Philippines when these were featured in shows that were not necessarily trade in nature abroad. Imagine getting to exhibit part of the Philippine heritage and history abroad only for it to be assessed for import taxes when they return. If anything, that is a big blow to the artists as they ended up unappreciated by the state. We are thankful that the Philippines has now signed on to the ATA Carnet, which hopefully would address this issue. For the benefit of everyone unfamiliar and to our viewing public, the ATA Carnet are temporary admission papers which would allow the free transport of goods across borders and a temporary admission into a customs territory with full relief from duties and taxes pursuant to the Istanbul Convention. And number 5, the late release of grants from the NCCA to our artists for their participation in art fairs. What happens is that the artists have to advance these payments, relying on reimbursements and subjecting themselves to the tedious requirements needed in order to claim these. So are they still grants if you have to advance the expenses for putting up an art show in the province? From there, some areas of collaboration that came about was to first revisit and reactivate the local culture and arts councils of the LGU, which under a DILG memorandum encourages the creation of LCACs in every LGU. This was eventually made a mandate under RA number 10066, or the National Cultural Heritage Act, and of course, Republic Act 11904, or the Philippine Creative Industries Development Act. However, we feel that it's not enough. To incentivize our LGUs to convene these LCACs, we call upon the DILG to recalibrate the criteria for awarding the seal of good local governance by increasing the weight or the points ascribed to the development of arts and culture in the locality. This is in recognition of the actual economic benefits investing in arts, culture, and creativity can actually bring, which I will expound upon more later. There was also a proposal to make a database of all the galleries in the Philippines for the information of the general public and to provide an avenue for collaboration and co-production among them. In our own district, the 4th District of Pangasinan, the Anak Banwa Creative Residency Program will be tying up with Bacolod's Orange Project for the upcoming Galila Arts Festival in March, a historical collaboration between Negrense and Dagopeño artists. We hope that the NCCA, or the soon-to-be-convened Philippine Creative Industries Development Council, can develop this plan so it could be appropriately funded at the opportune time. We are also optimistic that in the final findings of the Department of Education's K-12 curricular review, that there would be major shifts and reforms towards increasing arts education and arts appreciation for our young learners. We also hope to forge more collaborations between the visual arts sector and the design sector, such as fashion, architecture, textile, and interior design, to develop functional creations to foster an intellectual property ecology. We're starting to see more of this actually when you look at artworks being plastered in tote bags or in art toys or in merchandise like t-shirts. So there's really an opportunity for various creative industry to actually cross-collaborate amongst one another and increase and expand the breadth and scope of the intellectual property ecology of our creative output. There are other issues in the field, such as art forgery, which is better addressed through strengthening the Art Forgery Act. Imagine the art forgery technical panel includes a national artist. So how exactly will a national artist be able to vet if the artwork of another artist is a forgery? So there needs to be really a recalibration of the composition of who will belong into this art forgery panel. There's also a lack of participation in intellectual property remuneration by our artists, which can be strengthened by revisiting the Intellectual Property Code. There's actually a provision in the law that says that if you were to resell an artwork to somebody else, the artist who owns the artwork is entitled to a portion of the sale. However, if the artwork is sold in private, how will the artist necessarily know if his or her artwork was resold? So that's actually in the law. It's just really hard to implement. And that's why if you look at NFTs now, or non-fungible tokens, which uses blockchain technology, it's able to track the provenance of the artwork such that if I resell my NFT to another buyer, then the artist automatically gets remuneration from the sale. So it's something that digital was able to solve that our analog and even our existing policy environment still has to play catch up to. And of course, the lack of opportunities for arts residencies, which we shall pursue through a bill that has been referred to our committee. So currently, we have the Galila, or rather the Anakbanwa Creative Residency Program in Dagupan. In a contiguous province in La Union, there's the Emerging Islands Arts Residency. You also have in Bacolod, you have the Orange Project. And there are many other private sector-led arts residency programs throughout the country. So imagine if each LGU city or province, each of the 81 provinces had their own arts residency programs. We are providing opportunities for artists to get to know the local community and also for the local community to learn from all of these outside artists, to be able to provide a more holistic spillover and multiplier effect for a certain territory. Next, we investigated the placemaking design sector as a whole in a series of 5 hearings last Congress. One heavily discussed topic was the practice of architecture in the country. And some of the issues that arose were, number 1, the loose implementation of the IRRs of Republic Act number 9266 or the Architecture Act of 2004. It was reported by our stakeholders that while it is required for architectural designs and plans to be submitted for the issuance of permits, government agencies do not strictly follow this, thus allowing the construction of ill-designed, unsafe infrastructure, which thus jeopardizes the locality. Number 2, there has been a failure of government-owned and controlled corporations to pay an incentive amounting to 1.5% of the project cost to the architect on record, which was a mandate of the IRRs meant to cover civil liabilities. Number 3, there are overlaps in the responsibilities of architects, landscape architects, and interior designers, which is a common source of tension in their industry. So really, how we envision the design professionals or the design stakeholders to work together is that there will be a whole of design community approach to each project. Whether it's the engineer or the architect that leads the project will be revitalized and will be more productive, more constructive if all of these design stakeholders work together, from the architect, the interior designer, the landscape architect, the environmental planner, and the engineer, such that there is a sort of this concept of Gesamtkunstwerk or total art in design. All of these design stakeholders working together for the common good. And number 4, issues in their enabling law also prohibits foreign trade Filipino architects from obtaining licenses in the Philippines. This limitation was not present in the case of landscape architects, thus allowing for the elevation of the profession. This was also aggravated by the fact that there were many illegal practitioners in the field. So can you imagine, you have renowned architects who studied abroad, but then they're not able to practice here in the country because of some restrictions in the law that does not honor necessarily what they're able to study abroad. So how can we elevate the practice of architecture if this practice so continues? Our discussions here were very thorough, but they remain open-ended. We hope that for the remainder of the 19th Congress, measures meant to address these issues are heard and resolved. Of course, the Mandatory Architect Bill has hurdled the TWG stage at the Committee on Local Government, and the Design Procurement Bill is pending a hearing. Third, we look into the state of literature in lieu of the publishing and print media industry. In terms of literature as an art, our hearings on this industry only showed opportunity for intellectual property expansion. The increase of distribution methods with the rise of ebooks, audiobooks, and podcasts, and laudable capacity building programs by both the private and public sector. However, as an industry, this sector faces major issues in sustainability, brought about by, number 1, high cost of raw materials such as paper and ink, which accounts for 60% of cost of goods as they are imported into the country. Number two, loss of advertising as a revenue generator for publishing and print media due to the sector's pivot towards influencers and digital platforms. Number three, supply chain disruptions and the closure of bookstores with the shift to digital. Number four, lack of technical expertise in the country, particularly literary agents that can help enable intellectual property ecology. So what are literary agents? Okay, think of somebody who represents a comic book artist or a novelist and will thus pitch the intellectual property to other firms that can expand its reach. For example, a comic book, if pitched to a film company, can become a film or an animated series or even a teleserye. Or for example, a book, if pitched to a theater company, can become a musical or a straight play. So we lack these literary agents who are able to really find different expressions for the intellectual property in literature, publishing, and print media, such that if you have a comic, sometimes it's just one print run of 250 copies sold in a trade show and then it ends there. Sayang naman. Ang dami-daming mga magagandang mga comic books sa ating bansa na pwedeng maging source of intellectual property syndication and expansion. And of course, number five, copyright violations due to piracy. So alam naman natin sa pelikula, maraming dina-download na mga pirated films. Akalain ninyo, yung mga libro at mga comics at magazines ay nada-download na rin through illegal means. So kailangan natin i-address yung intellectual property enforcement ng Intellectual Property Office of the Philippines. To address at least the issue on high cost of raw materials, we in the Arts, Culture, and Creative Industries block will be filing a bill this afternoon which will move for VAT exemption of advertising and print media to incentivize advertisers to engage with the sector, which can hopefully revitalize it. So the bill is about to be filed. If you would like to co-author, you are more than welcome to. Ito po yung request sa atin ng Book Developers Association of the Philippines, pati na rin ng United Print Media Group, yung samahan ng lahat ng mga periodiko, mga newspaper at magazines sa ating bansa. Now, let's move on to audiovisual media. So just a couple of weeks ago, we concluded the third of three very thorough, very insightful hearings on the state of the film industry as prompted by the resolution filed by Deputy Speaker Camille Villar, in the hopes of finding a way to fund or support a potential Oscars campaign for the Best International Feature Film. At the onset, these hearings drew flack from the media for the simple question, kailangan pa bang mag-congressional hearing para makasali tayo sa Oscars? The short answer is yes. One of the major findings was that a major Oscars campaign with all the marketing expenses that it incurs comes with a hefty price tag of about $2 million or more than 100 million pesos. So meaning to say, yung mga pelikula na nanonominate sa Oscars, suportado sila ng kanilang mga gobyerno dahil sa ROI ng isang Oscars win para sa isang bansa. Kung gusto mong mangampanya for an Oscars Best International Feature, lahat ng mga juror, kailangan nilang mapanood yung pelikula mo. How will they do that? Number one, kailangan makakita sila ng billboard along Hollywood Boulevard, which costs money. Kailangan makakita sila ng ad sa Variety magazine or sa Hollywood Reporter, which also costs money. 3, kailangan nilang mag-attend ng mga junket, ng mga dinner, ng familiarization tours para mas makilala nila yung pelikula. So meaning to say, to be able to launch a successful Oscars bid, kailangan mangampanya. At usually, yung mga progresibong mga bansa alam nila to, kaya sinusuportahan nila ang kanilang industriya ng pelikula. If the government wants to support quality films on an international level, budgetary support, as the private sector cannot afford it on their own, is needed, and because the return on investment for the country is much higher. As explained by our stakeholders during the hearings, the most obvious impact a country can gain from an Oscars nomination is an increase in tourism. I will discuss more about film tourism later on, but suffice to say that being recognized in the Oscars puts you on the cultural world map. Just like how South Korea unsurprisingly got an influx of inbound tourists when Parasite won Best Picture at the Oscars. In fact, official South Korean tourism organizations have special tours purely for Parasite-related spots. I'm sure yung Crash Landing on You, meron ding tour na you get to eat kung saan kumain si Hyun Bin, di ba? Or pupunta ka kung saan sila nag-date nung ka-love team niya. So talagang nagagamit yung film tourism to be able to attract more people to come to our shores. An Oscar nomination or a win is free marketing for a place and for the film. As succinctly put by the Directors Guild of the Philippines, once you're recognized globally in terms of cinema, it's not only the talent that is recognized, but the whole country. This affects tourism and cultural sectors. On the part of the actors who snag these major awards, a 2020 study shows that their salary also increases by at least 20% following an Oscars nomination, which leads to better productivity and sustainability of the workforce. This also turns global attention to the potency and power of Pinoy talent, which could also create more opportunities for our working actors to showcase their talent on a global platform. You know, on a related note, I remember having a conversation with Lea Salonga in one of our Zoom hearings for the performing arts and the music sector. And we kind of shared some insights about her ascent to how, you know, she starred in Annie, and then she auditioned for Miss Saigon, and then eventually she became the voice of Jasmine and Mulan, two Disney princesses. And it was very interesting to note that Leia had to go outside to be able to be recognized inside. I guess you can say the same of Dolly De Leon, who has been working in the entertainment industry for decades. But not a lot of people knew about Dolly De Leon. Of course, I did because I also hail from the theater sector, of which Dolly is one of the most respected theater actors in the country. And also, I do get to see her in film, but it's only now that Dolly is having a moment. She is a cover of Philippine Tatler right now. I mean, she had a feature in Vogue Philippines as well as in the international Vogue title. But it's because nakilala si Dolly sa Triangle of Sadness before siya kilalanin dito sa ating bansa. So, in a way, medyo hindi ko maintindihan kung bakit ganun yung colonial mentality at kung bakit ganun yung kalakaran na sisikat ka lang dito pag sumikat ka sa ibang bansa. But certainly that has to change. And going back to the whole issue of Oscars, pag maging Oscar-nominated actor ka, di ba, pag bibida ka sa isang pelikula, sinasabi na parang starring Oscar winner Julia Roberts, starring Oscar winner Brad Pitt, or Oscar-nominated star Dolly, di pala nominated si Dolly, pero Golden Globe-nominated star Dolly De Leon. So, again, these awards, these prestigious award-giving bodies are able to really raise the equity of our talents here in the country. These hearings also highlighted how film is not as accessible as it used to be. The Cinema Exhibitors Association of the Philippines, in its position paper, gave a simple breakdown of the current 320 peso movie ticket, which is the current standard price. Okay? 10% of this goes to amusement taxes na pinapataw ng ating mga local government unit. The remaining value will be split between, syempre, costs of production. It costs millions to produce a film, which is roughly already 55% nung kinikita ng isang pelikula. Yung natitira, napupunta to sa mga cinema operators na ginagamit nila yung share nila sa isang movie ticket, pambayad sa mga manpower, utilities, rent, advertising, and other operational expenditures, which remain generally fixed, whether or not a movie is a box office hit. Meaning to say, pareho ang renta at binabayaran sa isang pelikula, whether Avengers man yan or isang indie film. In fact, this 320 peso standard movie ticket is comparable to the minimum wage of some regions. It is even higher than the 316 peso minimum wage in BARM. So, paano nila ma-afford manood ng isang ticket kung syempre yung kikitain ng minimum wage pupunta dun sa mga basic goods and commodities? Furthermore, it is estimated by the PMPPA, or the Philippine Motion Pictures Producers Association, that gross sales of films should amount to 270% of your investment para mag-break even. It's really not good business. Usually 50%, sana maka-ROI ka na. Pero kailangan yung pelikula mo kumita ng 270% para man lang mabawi mo lahat ng gastos mo. What does this mean? Kung ang budget ng isang pelikula ay 100 million pesos, kailangan mong kumita ng 270 million pesos sa takilya para man lamang maka-break even. I don't think that's sustainable, and I don't think that's good business. And there are a lot of factors that we can attribute to this, such as sa dami ng mga buwis na binabayaran ng mga filmmakers natin. In fact, 3 ang binabayaran nilang buwis. Una, yung income tax ng lahat ng talents na hinahire nila. Number 2, yung VAT ng lahat ng mga kagamitan at mga equipment and resources na ginagamit nila. And pangatlo, yung amusement tax. Now, we're very, very thankful that Quezon City and Las Piñas have relaxed their policies on amusement tax. However, in other LGUs in Metro Manila and other parts of the country, andyan pa rin si amusement tax. At napakalaking dagok nito sa ating mga film producers. So I hope we can all work together to do something about it. In fact, according to the PMPPA, no Philippine-made film in 2022 was able to make a profit out of their work. Thus, in order to potentially lower these costs to the public as well as expenses to the producers and cinema exhibitors, the Arts, Culture, and Creative Industries Block, or ACHIB, will also file this afternoon the Film and Live Events Recovery Bill. It's a bill that was already passed on 3rd reading last Congress, but unfortunately was not acted upon in the Senate, which will lower the amusement tax from 10 to 5% and also provide for a 2-year amusement tax holiday from the collection of LGUs para naman masuportahan natin yung recovery ng ating film and live events industries. Subsequently also, yung 5% after 2 years, pag ipasa yung batas, will be earmarked for the LGU's arts and culture and creative industry programs. I hope everybody can also support the said measure. I want to thank the 40 other members who have signed on to be principal authors of the bill. We also hope to seek clarification on the implementation of a Supreme Court decision which stated that cinema exhibitors who pay amusement taxes should be exempt from paying VAT, a practice which, according to our stakeholders, has not been fully enforced. We hope this matter can be resolved soonest by our authorities. Another major pain point in our film industry is the logistical nightmare of securing a multitude of permits needed just to shoot a scene. Okay? Imagine, barangay permits on top of city permits, tanod fees, security fees, road closure permits on top of permits for police escorts. And that's just for location shooting. Meron pang drone permits. Meron pang kung ano-anong permit. Iba ring animal yung work permit for foreigners. Kunwari, may talents na kailangan ilipad dito sa ating bansa. And what's worse, our government websites are not updated as to the processes and requirements needed, which leads to inefficiency, confusion, and added costs. So I really hope we can streamline this, and we call on the Anti-Red Tape Authority to work alongside the Film Development Council of the Philippines to create a one-stop shop for film producers. Kasi, I'll speak about this more later, pero hindi lang film incentives yung hinahanap ng producers na gusto mag-shoot ng pelikula dito sa ating bansa na makakatulong sa ating ekonomiya. Hinahanap din nila yung medyo madali yung karanasan or experience nila. Pero kung mag-amazing race ka pa sa napakaraming mga government agency para lang makapag-shoot, wag na lang, doon na lang tayo sa ibang countries sa ASEAN. Next, the reactivation of the Film Academy of the Philippines. For all those who are not aware, it's a government organization, or rather maybe quasi-government, established in 1981 through Executive Order number 640-A, and that has become dormant for the past years either through lack of leadership or budgetary support. And this must be undertaken ASAP. The FAP is the official liaison of the Philippines to the Academy of Motion Pictures Arts and Sciences, or AMPAS. So, if you were to liken the Film Academy to another entity, I guess you can compare it to the POC, or the Philippine Olympic Committee. Sila yung nag-endorse ng mga athletes na magko-compete sa Olympics. Diba? So, ang Film Academy of the Philippines, sila nag-endorse ng pelikula na magko-compete sa Oscars. Ngayon, ang source of funding ng Film Academy of the Philippines is yung share percentage ng kinikita ng Metro Manila Film Festival. Pero alam naman natin, nung nagkaroon ng pandemic, halos walang kinita ang MMFF noong 2020 and 2021. So that means walang resources yung Film Academy para makapag-review ng mga pelikula. And so there was this 1 year na wala tayong naisubmit na entry sa Oscars. At kaya nag-volunteer yung ibang mga private sector organizations na sila na mismo yung magve-vet at gagawa. So I think kailangan nating pag-aralan, i-revisit yung charter ng Film Academy of the Philippines. In fact, kami ni Congressman Richard Gomez, pinag-usapan na namin to. We want to be able to use our oversight powers here in Congress to be able to review the charter and see how it can have more sustainable funding and how it can operate more efficiently in the service of our film industry. And lastly, we hope that the film incentives program of the government is thoroughly reviewed and strengthened. Our hearings have shown that because of our less than competitive grant system for foreign filmmakers to shoot in the country, medyo natatalo tayo dun sa mga neighbors natin sa ASEAN, tulad ng Thailand and Indonesia. Okay, to illustrate, the budget of the Film Development Council of the Philippines for its Film Philippines program in 2022 was only 70 million pesos, with a measly 10 million peso grant cap per film. Meaning to say, yung pinakamalaking pwede mo makuhang grant from FDCP is 10 million. Eh, tignan mo na lang yung grant ng Thailand, nasa 122 million pesos yung cap. Equivalent, of course, in baht. And pagdating naman sa Australia, New Zealand, wala silang limit dun sa grant na binibigay sa mga filmmakers. So, anong consequence nito? Medyo nawawala sa atin yung mga opportunities ng mga foreign films para mag-shoot sa bansa. Ang foreign film, kung mag-shoot yan sa isang bansa, syempre, ang laking infusion yan sa ating ekonomiya. Number one, lahat ng mga qualified Philippine production expenditures, hospitality, mga binabayad sa hotel, restaurants, sa mga resources, sa tourism. Nag-hire din yan ng mga Pinoy para maging gaffer, maging tagahawak ng ilaw, dun sa mga technical na mga roles sa isang pelikula. And nakakaroon din ng technology transfer. Yung mga filmmakers natin, na-upskill sila by interacting with these foreign filmmakers. And also, kung maganda yung naging karanasan ng foreign filmmaker dun sa Pilipinas, syempre, imamarites na nila yan dun sa ibang mga Hollywood companies para hikayatin sila mag-shoot dito sa ating bansa. Actually, ang masaklap dyan, because of our film incentives na napaka-measly at kulelat, nawala sa atin ang isang MCU Marvel title na dapat mag-shoot sa Pilipinas. Nag-shoot sila sa ibang ASEAN countries. At alam nyo ba kung magkano yung ginastos nila doon sa ASEAN country na yon? More than 1 billion pesos. So sayang na sayang talaga. Film tourism is really one of the biggest opportunities that we can capitalize on, especially as an emerging economy, as a developing country. If we want to leapfrog and join the ranks of Singapore and the other developed ASEAN countries. According to a 2018 survey, close to 80 million international tourists choose their travel location based on what they see on television or in film. So iba pa to sa advertising na mga videos na mga It's More Fun in the Philippines na makikita mo sa billboard ng Times Square or ng Leicester Square sa London. Hindi. Sila na-influence sila doon sa mga pelikulang pinapanood nila. So, when Lara Croft Tomb Raider was filmed in Cambodia, international tourist arrivals increased by 30% of that same year. When Crazy Rich Asians was released, there was a 14% year-on-year increase in American visitor arrivals alone. In fact, for one day, the most searched term on Google was, "Where is Singapore?" But aside from tourism, movies have the potential to develop localities. In our hearings, veteran producer June Huban presented to us a glimpse of how the Survivor franchise developed Caramoan in Camarines Sur, from being a small, undeveloped municipality to the vacation hotspot it is today. More than that, it became a source of jobs for the locals. Literacy rates increased from the people's interactions with the tourists. In fact, almost all students in Caramoan have a good grasp of English just because they are known to be interacting with tourists if they are to work in Caramoan eventually. Moreover, according to the Film Development Council of the Philippines, for every 1 peso incentive that we appropriate for the Film Incentive Program of FDCP, the ROI to the Philippine economy is 7 pesos. Meaning to say, film incentive is not a losing proposition for the country. It's an investment. In fact, may balik kaagad sa ekonomiya, which can be attributed to the increase in productivity of local MSMEs, accommodation and hospitality establishments, restaurants, and the like. For the Kongs and the LGUs na gusto nyong i-pursue yung film tourism ninyo, I encourage you to look into the Caramoan model. Sobrang successful. I'm sure the Villafuertes will be very happy to share their experiences with regards to working with the agency and how they made that happen, as well as going straight to the FDCP to know how you can activate film tourism in your locality. And I'd also just like to make a special mention to the great Secretary Cristina Frasco, because when she made her plans for DOT during the budget hearings last year, one of the main tourism products that the DOT is pushing for now is film tourism. So I'm so happy and glad that Sec Cristina is really on board into the creative agenda to be able to really galvanize audiovisual sector, to be able to draw in more inbound tourist arrivals to the country, as well as to spur domestic tourism as we go to each other's localities. This month, our committee is set to begin a legislative inquiry into the performing arts sector, one that is personally close to my heart as a theater director and producer, but at the same time experiences similar challenges and issues in terms of funding, opportunities, exhibition, and audience development. We encourage our partners in the performing arts, kung nanonood kayo ngayon, whether you're dance, opera, theater, live music, puppetry, spoken word, circus, to participate in the hearings. Just reach out to our office and we'll be sure to invite you. and so that you can also provide your input. Feel free again to reach out to our committee and find out more details. And if you'd like for your local performing arts organizations to participate. Madam Speaker, dear colleagues, the current state of our Philippine arts is that it is not in its best state. But there is definitely room for growth, and there is room for improvement. I still believe that we are in a prime position to create an environment where artists can thrive towards national development, thanks to the institution of legislation that can enable. The ball is now on us in government to nurture this environment through the funding of programs in the GAA and the realigning of thrusts towards arts, culture, and creativity. We can also enact policies that will make it more enabling and more supportive of Philippine culture and the arts. To quote the great American painter Robert Henry, the object isn't to make art, it's to be in that wonderful state which makes art inevitable. I have many a time talked about this German concept of Gesamtkunstwerk, or the totality of art, where this representation dreams that different creative forms find expression among other forms, like how we can transform a comic book into a video game, or a fashion line into a painting, or a movie into a musical, or a book into an app. I believe this is what we want to aspire towards, an intellectual property ecology. Mr. Speaker, Madam Speaker, dear colleagues, I mentioned earlier that today we celebrate Arts Month. To the soul and heart of this occasion, the artist, to our performers, our filmmakers, our designers, our writers, our musicians, our painters, thank you for giving identity to the Philippines and to the Filipino people. While we still have a lot of work to do, I believe that we are on the right track, especially with this administration that gives so much priority and premium to the creative industries, as evidenced in the very first SONA of our president. To our budding artists, we want everyone to take comfort in the fact that your art form is valid and that engaging into the arts can be a career choice that is respected and can be sustainable, especially now with the passage of Republic Act 11904, or the Philippine Creative Industries Development Act. To the artists who are listening right now, we promise you that we are going to create a more creative future so that you will not be told by your parents na walang pera sa sining at sa kultura, because arts can be a sustainable trade if it enjoys the support of government, the same way that South Korea is able to provide for their creative industries. And I know with the pedigree and caliber our Filipino artists possess, the future is artistic, and hashtag the future is creative. Balbalag salamat at kayo namin, and again, a happy National Arts Month to everyone. Thank you.
Majority Leader.
Madam Speaker, I move that we refer the speech of Representative Christopher De Venecia from the 4th District of Pangasinan to the Committee on Rules for its appropriate action.
There's a motion. Is there any objection? The chair hears none. The motion is approved. Majority Leader.
Madam Speaker, may we please acknowledge the guest of Representative Dan S. Fernandez from the Lone District of Santa Rosa, Laguna, Mr. Damanpreet Singh from India, Captain Jason Carillo, and Thomas Barinuevo.
To the guests of the Honorable Danilo Ramones Fernandez from the Lone District of Santa Rosa, Laguna, Mr. Damanpreet Singh, Captain Jason Carillo, and Thomas Barinuevo, welcome to the House of Representatives. Majority Leader.
Madam Speaker, I move that we recognize Representative Franz Castro of ACT Teachers Party List for her privileged speech.
The Honorable Franz Castro is recognized for her privileged speech.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Thank you, Majority Leader. Magandang araw, Madam Speaker, sa mga kapwa kinatawan at sa ating mga kababayan. Katatapos lamang iulat ng Department of Education ang Basic Education Report for 2023. kung saan kinilala nila ang kalunos-lunos at nakapanlulumong kalagayan ng sektor ng edukasyon. Nandyan pa rin ang mga perennial problems, shortages, backlogs at iba pa. Iniulat nila ang mga problema, ngunit hindi naidetali ang konkretong solusyon sa mga ito. Mismong sa BEC 2023 nang gagaling ang deklarasyon na, and I quote, "The grave learning crisis is rooted on the long-time government neglect of education." And I quote, tama po ito, ang kababayaan ng gobyerno ay nagbunga ng matinding kakulangan sa paaralan, school buildings, classroom, pasilidad, infrastruktura, mga libro, kakulangan sa guro, education support personnel, at iba pang mga pangangailangan ng mga estudyante. Idagdag pa ang labis na trabaho sa mga guro, kakulangan ng suporta at hindi nakabubuhay na sahod. Pinagkaitan din ng access sa edukasyon ang milyong-milyong bata at kabataan dahil marami ang out-of-school youth, lalo na nitong pandemya. Ibinaba nito ang kalidad ng edukasyon sa kaawa-awang antas. Hindi na rin bago ang malaking problema natin, Madam Speaker, sa K-12 curriculum. Dahil natukoy na ang mga ito noong 2018 pa, ngunit walang dokumento na inilabas patungkol sa sinasabing comprehensive review ng Department of Education. Dahil sa lumalalang krisis sa edukasyon, kagyat na dapat solusyonan ito ng ating gobyerno at dapat mailatag ng DepEd ang mga konkretong hakbang o aksyon upang maiangat muli ang kalidad ng edukasyon sa ating bansa. Dito po sa Kongreso, napakaraming mga panukalang batas na inihain, kagaya ng Makabayan Black, para matugunan ang matagal na at lalo pang lumalalang problema sa edukasyon. Ilan lamang sa halimbawa ay ang nakabubuhay na sahod at karampatang mga benepisyo at makataong kondisyon sa paggawa. Kailangan lamang ng political will at suporta mula sa administrasyon at mga kapwa kinatawan upang maisabatas ang mga importanteng panukalang batas na nagmula rin naman mismo sa mga konsultasyon at mga obserbasyon sa mga paaralan. Halos 7 buwan na po lumipas, simula na naupo si Pangulong Marcos Jr. at si Vice President Secretary Sara Duterte bilang kalihim ng Department of Education. Ngunit wala pa rin nakikita nating konkretong naibigay na suporta sa sektor ng edukasyon at lalo na sa mga guro. Tulad ng mga nagdaang administrasyon, tila hindi prioridad na kagyat na masolusyonan ang krisis sa edukasyon. Aminado ang DepEd na mahigit na 100,000 ang mga classroom na hindi na angkop na gamitin. Idagdag pa rito ang 10,000 karagdagang classroom sa bawat taon para sa karaniwang pagtaas sa enrollment, habang hindi pa rin natutugunan ang problema sa masikip na classroom at malalaking class size. Gayunpaman, nagsalita lamang si VP Duterte tungkol sa target na 6,000 classroom para sa taong ito na hindi pa nga sapat upang matugunan ang pagdami ng populasyon ng mga mag-aaral. Kinakailangan natin, Madam Speaker, dito ng mga drastic na mga solusyon kaugnay dun sa ating mga infrastructure. Ang mabilisan pero kalidad na mga classroom. Ang tanong, ilang classroom ang matatayo sa pinanukala at inaprubahang pondo natin para sa 2023 at kakayanin ba ng mga LGU, lalo na ang mga maliliit na syudad at munisipyo. Wala ring particular na target at timeline na ipinakita ang hensya upang makabuluhang mabawasan ang kakulangan sa mga classroom. Wala ring itinakdang deadline para sa pagpapakuryente o pagbibigay ng mga power doon sa ating mga eskwelahan ng 1,562 na mga paaralan. Wala ring konkretong target sa pagpapagawa ng mga library hub at e-classroom packages. Wala pa ring laptop para sa mga guro. Wala pa ring plano upang mapabuti ang pag-access ng mga mag-aaral, lalo na ang inclusive education at palaging may disbentahe sa paglalaan sa budget. Bilang kinatawan ng sektor ng edukasyon, kaisa po ako ng mga guro at ng mga stakeholders, sa panawagan na itaas ang kalidad ng edukasyon. Bigyan ng sapat na pondo ang budget sa edukasyon at bigyan ng nakabubuhay na sahod at sapat na benepisyo ang bawat guro, kawani at edukasyon, education support personnel. Kagyat ng dinggin at isabatas ang pagtataas ng mga teaching supplies allowance, 10,000 pesos, bigyan ng nararapat na special hardship allowance, teaching overload pay, free annual check-up, i-regulate ang class size sa public school, ipasa ang Magna Carta of Public School Teachers at Magna Carta ng Private School Teachers, at iba pang mga panukalang batas na ikabubuti ng buong sektor ng edukasyon. Ilan po dito ay mga na-determine ng Secretary of Education na matagal na po natin na pinapanukala upang tugunan at solusyonan sa konkreto ang mga problema at krisis sa edukasyon. Dapat makinig ang DepEd sa kanilang mga stakeholders kung talagang nais nitong solusyonan ang mga pangmatagalang problemang ipinakita nito sa BEC 2023. Sa pamamagitan ng pagkipagtulungan sa mga guro, konsultahin natin ang mga guro dahil sila yung mga nasa ground at alam nila ang mga problema, alam nila yung mga kahinaan, kakulangan at mga best practices din sa pagpapatupad nitong mga curriculum at mga problema natin sa ating eskwelahan. Sa kanilang mga unyon at organisasyon, nararapat na kumonsulta. Sa mga magulang at iba pang mga stakeholders, ay makagagawa ng sapat na patakaran na magiging mas epektibo at episyente para sa lahat at sa huli ay magbigay ng akses sa dekalidad na edukasyon para sa lahat. Ang pagkilala na may problema at may kapabayaan, ang gobyerno ay isang hakbang pasulong upang unti-unting masolusyonan. Hinahamon natin ngayon ang Administrasyong Marcos Jr. at ang DepEd na suportahan ang pro-teacher at mga pro-education measures na inihain ng mga kasamahan natin dito at ng ACT Teachers Party List. At gumawa na ng lalong panahon ang mga konkretong aksyon at plano. Makinig sa mga stakeholders nito at suportahan ang kanilang makahilingan para sa tunay na mga reforma upang matugunan ang patuloy na lumalalang krisis sa edukasyon ng bansa. Dapat ding humarap si Vice President Secretary Duterte sa Kongreso upang magbigay ng report ukol sa kanilang plano, programa o aksyon para solusyonan ang sinasabing krisis sa edukasyon. Sa kabuuan, Madam Speaker, ang matatag edukasyon agenda na ipinakita sa BER 2023 ay isang buod ng mga pangakong na ipahayag na ni Vice President Duterte sa mga nakaraang buwan. Sa kasamaang palad po, karamihan sa mga ito ay nananatiling pangkalahatang mga pangako na kulang sa mga partikular na plano, aksyon, timeline, at tiyak na mga target. Huwag sana itong muli mauwi sa pangakong mapapako. Maraming salamat, Madam Speaker, at muli magandang hapon sa ating lahat.
Majority Leader.
Madam Speaker, I move that we refer the privileged speech of the Honorable Castro to the Committee on Rules.
There's a motion. Is there any objection? The chair hears none. The motion is approved. Majority Leader.
Madam Speaker, I move that we recognize Representative Arlene D. Brosas of Party List Gabriela for a privileged speech.
The Honorable Arlene Bros is recognized for her
Thank you, Madam
privilege.
Speaker. Maraming salamat po, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, 1 Billion Rising, a global movement that aims to fight and end violence against women and girls, started at the initiative of Eve Ensler, author, playwright, and activist. It was launched in 2012 to be celebrated on Valentine's Day and has been annually done by women and girls, including cisgender, transgender, and those who hold fluid identities that are subject to gender-based violence. 1 Billion Rising, celebrated annually in February, is a call for women to rise up, resist, and unite. Its name is based on a UN statistic that 1 out of 3 women will be raped or beaten in her lifetime. The movement calls for that 1 billion women to come forward and to rise to revolution through dance. to stop violence against women, as a collective, the campaign through dance is not only an act of defiance, but is also a celebration. We at the Gabriela Women's Party have been part of such revolution through dance since its inception. Here in the Philippines, the global campaign has been going strong. This year's theme is Rise for Freedom on the 10th anniversary of 1 Billion Rising. The Philippines launched the 2023 1 Billion Rising campaign last November 23, 2022 through an Artists Rising event which gathered artists and activists from the different sectors: peasant, youth, migrants, women workers, religious women, educators, journalists, political prisoners, and LGBTQIA+, to participate in a Rise for Freedom video and Freedom Wall photo shoot. Last November 25, 2022, a workshop entitled I Vow to Fight Vow, Women in the World of Work, was held to kick off the 16 days of activism on the International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women, or I Vow Day. The workshop discussed issues faced by women in the labor force, such as low salary or non-livable wage, contractualization, and discrimination and abuse in the workplace. Last Saturday, February 4, the 1 Billion Rising Parade was held at the Industrial Valley Complex in Barangay IVC, Marikina City. This event was held for children and women in the community to celebrate 1 Billion Rising through concerted dancing. As a culmination of the 1 Billion Rising campaign in 2023, an event will be held on February 11 at the Liwasang Aurora in Quezon City Memorial Circle to rise for freedom and to create the new culture. Madam Speaker, nakakaalarma ang sunod-sunod na kaso ng karahasan laban sa kababaihan sa ilalim ng Administrasyong Marcos Jr. Pagpatay kay Yvonne Chua Plaza ni dating Presidential Security Group Chief General Durante, brutal na pagpaslang kay Julie Biranara sa Kuwait, at mga bagong kaso ng panggagahasa ng kapulisan sa mga kababaihan, tampok din ang patuloy na pamamayagpag ni Pastor Apollo Kibuloy sa kanyang istasyon sa kabila ng patong-patong na aligasyon ng sex trafficking, rape at pang-aabuso sa kababaihan at bata, at sa kabila ng pagturing sa kanya na kabilang sa FBI Most Wanted Criminal. Madam Speaker, higit na idinidiin ng mga kasong ito ang halaga at kabuluhan ng 1 Billion Rising at ang pangangailangang palakasin ang panawagang labanan ng abuso. Women across the country will rise for freedom from violence and freedom from exploitation. Titindig ang kababaihan laban sa karahasan sa kababaihan at mga bata. Titindig ang kababaihan para sa kalayaan ng mga manggagawa na mag-unyon at ipaglaban ang kanilang mga karapatan sa nakabubuhay na sahod at maayos na paggawa. Titindig ang kababaihan para sa kalayaan sa kawalan ng lupa sa mga magsasaka. Patuloy na titindig ang Gabriela Women's Party para isulong ang mga panukalang magwawakas sa karahasan at abuso sa mga kababaihan at para baguhin ang mga istruktura ng lipunang nagsasadlak sa kababaihan sa mababang antas. We will rise for freedom against violence and exploitation. We will rise for freedom from wage slavery. We will rise for women and children's rights. Maraming salamat, Madam Speaker. Maraming salamat po.
Majority Leader.
Madam Speaker, I move that the privileged speech of the Honorable Arlene D. Brosas be referred to the Committee on Rules.
There's a motion. Is there any objection? The chair hears none. The motion is approved. Majority Leader.
Madam Speaker, I move that we extend the privilege hour to, we extend for 30 minutes.
There's a motion to extend the privilege hour. Is there any objection? The chair hears none. The motion is approved. Majority Leader.
Madam Speaker, I move that we recognize Raul Daniel A. Manuel of Party List Kabataan for his privileged speech.
The Honorable Raul Daniel Manuel is recognized for his privileged speech.
Salamat, Madam Speaker. Last January 30, DepEd Secretary Sara Duterte held a press conference to discuss the summation of the assessments on the current state of basic education in the country. The issues raised there, however, were not novel. In fact, most of the issues presented by DepEd in that report echoed the calls of the youth and student sector for years. That the DepEd would act as if these issues were not ones that have been brought to their attention multiple times is already an insult to organized efforts from the members of the education sector to push for reforms that have been much needed since time immemorial. We have been calling for added facilities since before the pandemic started. We have been trying to draw attention to the issue of school congestion, the effect of natural disasters on learning, the lack of learning materials, among other things. We have called for the support for closing private schools amid the pandemic, as well as the improvement of public schools' absorptive capacity, while there is a huge migration of learners to public schools due to rising education costs. We have raised the issues of learner fatigue and mental health erosion during the pandemic, as we tried to blare alarms due to rising numbers of student suicides and suicide attempts. We also called for academic easing. We have been criticizing the corrupt and muddled procurement practices at DepEd for a long time as well. Lastly, we have long called for a genuine review of the K-12 program, something that DepEd did without due consultation to youth organizations and other affected sectors. Since its inception, the K-12 curriculum has been designed with the goal of producing low-paid labor for big and foreign industries. What it aims is not to provide young learners with a comprehensive and nationalist education, but rather to produce workers who simply meet standards of having 12 years of basic education under their belt. Dati po, pinaasa ang mga kabataan at ang mga magulang na magiging employable ang mga estudyante na magtatapos ng K-12. Pero ngayon, galing na mismo sa DepEd na hindi natupad ang pangakong ito. A lot of those who managed to finish the K-12 curriculum are those who could opt to go on to higher education, which they did, as DepEd data show. In a study referenced by DepEd in the 2023 Basic Education Report, only 10% of K-12 graduates go on to be employed. Such a statistic does not yet capture the quality of work that these graduates were accepted into. The Basic Education Report has exposed the K-12 program to be a failure, and its matatag agenda is a paltry attempt to recoup their losses and further modify the K-12 program to achieve its real and original objective, to open the Philippine youth and labor force to domestic and foreign exploitation. Now, top officials are planning to supposedly reorient the K-12 program to, as they say, upskill the youth and make them more employable. But no matter how much the K-12 curriculum will be tweaked, as long as it is still aligned to its original objective, it will retain the same problems. At its core is soulless education that will fail to develop a critical citizenry. To end, Madam Speaker, we should start to acknowledge the calls at the grassroots level to move towards an education that prepares the youth and students to solve relevant national issues. An education that focuses on scientific basis and discovery, and an education that moves away from antiquated ways of thinking. Yun lang, Madam Speaker. Maraming salamat.
Majority Leader.
Madam Speaker, I move that we refer the privileged speech of the Honorable Manuel to the Committee on Rules.
There is a motion. Is there any objection? The chair hears none. The motion is approved. Majority Leader.
Madam Speaker, under the calendar of business for the day, I move that we consider House Bill number 6715 as contained in the Committee Report 261 and ask the Secretary to read the title.
The Secretary General is directed to read the title of House Bill 6715.
House Bill number 6715, an act providing for the development of sustainable cities and communities in the country.
Majority Leader.
Madam Speaker, I move for 1 minute suspension.
Session suspended. Session resumed.
Madam Speaker, I move that we terminate the privilege hour.
There's a motion to terminate the privilege hour. Is there any objection? The chair hears none. The motion is approved. Majority Leader.
Madam Speaker, I move that we suspend session for a few minutes.
Session suspended.
Sabihan mo na ako. Yan na ako sa baba. Session is resumed. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we suspend consideration of House Bill number 6715, contained Committee Report number 261 for second reading.
Is there any objection? The chair hears none. The motion is approved. The Secretary General is directed. Suspend the consideration. Is there any objection? Chair hears none. Motion is approved. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move for the consideration on third reading, House Bill number 1270, and for this purpose, the Secretary General is hereby directed to read the title of the said measure and thereafter call the roll for nominal voting. So move,
Is
Mr.
there any objection? The chair hears none. Motion is approved. The Secretary General is directed to read the title of the bill and thereafter call the roll for nominal voting.
House Bill number 1270, an act instituting policies for the protection and promotion of the welfare of workers or independent contractors in the film, television, and radio entertainment industry. Roll call of members in consideration on third reading of House Bill number 1270. Abalos, Abante, Abunda, at Sharon, Asidre, Acop, Adyong, Advincula, Agaraw, Alba, Albano, Almario, Almonte, Alonte, Alvarez Jose, Alvarez Mercedes, Alvarez Pantaleon, Amante, Amatong, Ang Angara, Aquino, Aquino Magsaysay, Arbison, Arenas, Arrogancia, Asistio, Atayde, Aumentado, Balindong, Barba, Barbers, Baronda, Barzaga, Bascug, Bautista, Bautista Lim, Benitez, Bernas, Billones, Biron, Bolilla, Bondok, Mungalon, Bordado, Bosita, Briones, Brosas, Buhain, Bulot Begtang, Bustos, Cabredo, Cagas, Cahayon, Uy, Calderon, Calixto, Campos, Kawagdan, Cardema, Cari, Castro, Franz, Castro, Jean, Celeste, Chan, Chato, Chua, Chungalao, Ko, Angelica, Natasha, Ko, Elizalde, Ko, Pilar, Ko, Juan, Ko, Jaime, Ko, Juan, Ko, Mark, Colada, Colyantes, Corvera, Cruz, Ambrosio, Cruz, Ricardo, Cuwa, Quaresma, Dagoc, Dalipe, Dalog, Dayang Hirang, Daza, De Jesus, De Venecia, Defensor del Mar, De Los Santos, Dimaporo, Muhammad Kali, Dimaporo City, Amina, Dionisio, Domingo, Duavit, Duhali, Duterte, Di Faustino Ino, Di Faustino Michael, Di Ian Paul, Ecleo, Emano, Enciso, Enverga, Escudero, Espares, Espina, Estrella, Yudela, Farinas, Fernandez, Ferrer Antonio, Ferrer Juliet Marie, Flores, Fortes, Frasco, Fresnedi, Fuentebella, Galeos, Garcia Albert, Garcia Dante, Garcia Jose Arturo, Garcia Maria Angela, Garcia Pablo Jan, Garcia Vincent, Guardiola, Garin, Gasataya, Gato, Goed Christopher, Gomark, Goles, Gomez, Gonzaga, Gonzales Aurelio, Gonzales Nepali, Gonzales Sandro, Goriseta, Guico, Gintu, Gulias, Gutierrez, Hagidorn, Haresco, Hataman, Hernandez, Herrera, Horebata, Javier, Ko Olga Ara, Ko Ricardo, Ko Wilton, Kunghun, Labad-Labad, Lacson, Lacson Noel, Lagman, Lagon Daphne, Lagon Sani, Lara, Lazatin, Ligarda, Libanan, Limcaychong, Loyola, Luistro, Lumayag, Makapagal Arroyo, Maceda, Madrona, Magsino, Malapitan, Mangawang, Maniquis, Manuel, Maranyon, Marcoleta, Marcos, Mariano Hernandez, Marino, Marquez, Martinez, Mastura, Matibag, Matugas, Mendoza, Mercado, Mercado Revilla, Miguel, Momo, Morden, Nava, Nisay, Noel, Nograles, Juan Fidel, Nograles, Margarita, Nolasco, Waminal, Olaso, Olivares, Ongchuan, Ordanes, Ortega, Uwano, Dizon, Padiernos, Paduano, Paglas, Palma, Panaligan, Pancho, Panotes, Pascual, Peña, Pimentel, Plaza, Pleito, Primisya Sagabas, Pumaren, Puno, Kimbo, Rama, Recto, Regencia, Revilla Brian, Revilla Ramon Jolo, Reyes, Rilio, Rivera, Robes, Rodriguez Eulogio, Rodriguez Rufus, Roman, Romero, Romualdez Ferdinand Martin, Romualdez Iada Marie, Romualdo, Romulo, Roque, Sakdalan, Sagarbaria, Sakaluran, Salceda, Sali, Salimbangon, Salo, Salvame, Santos, Saulug, Silverio, Singson Richel, Singson Ronald, Singson Mihan, Solon, Soriano, Suwan, Suwansing Horacio, Suwansing Micaela Angela, Suarez, Talyado, Tamayo, Tamunting, Tan Joseph, Tan Keith Micah, Tan Reynolds Michael, Tan Samir, Tan Stephen James, Tan Tambut, Tan Chay, Tanuatco, Tariela, Teodoro, Teves Arnolfo, Teves Jose, Tiangco, Tieng Tolentino, Tulfo, Jocelyn, Tulfo Ralph Wendell, Tupas, Tutorti, Umali, Unabia, Unga, Valeriano, Valmayor, Vargas, Vargas Alfonso, Velasco, Veloso, Tuazon, Vergara, Versosa, Villa, Villafuerte, Luis Raymond, Villafuerte, Miguel Luis, Villanueva, Villar, Villaraza Suarez, Villarica, Villago, Yap Christiantel, Yap Christopherson, Yap Edvic, Yap Eric, Yu Divina Grace, Yu Jazel Victoria, Yulo, Zamora Amparo Maria, Zamora Maria Carmen, Zamora Isabel Maria, Zubiri. Second call for consideration on third reading of House Bill number 1270. Abunda, Almonte, Alvarez Pantaleon, Amatong, Arenas, Atayde, Barbers, Bautista, Briones, Cari, Castro, Jean, Chungalao, Copilar, Cruz Ricardo, Daza, Duavit, Duterte, D. Ian Paul, Enverga, Farinas, Flores, Garcia Maria Angela, Go Ed Christopher, Gonzaga, Gonzalez Sandro, Gullias, Hagedorn, Co Wilton, Lagon Daphne, Libanan, Mangawang, Marcoleta, Mendoza, Mercado Revilla, Nograles Juan Fidel, Padiernos, Paglas, Panotes, Rama, Rehencia, Reyes, Rillo, Rodriguez Eulogio, Roman, Romero, Sagarbaria, Silverio, Singson Richel, Suwan, Suarez, Tan Reynolds Michael, Tan Samir, Tan Stephen James, Tan Tambut, Tan Chay, Teves Arnolfo, Tieng, Tulfor Ralph Wendell, Umali, Valeriano, Villaferte Luis Raymond, Villaferte Miguel Luis, Villar, Villaraza Suarez, Yap Edvic, Yap Eric, U. Divina Grace, U. Giselle Victoria, Zamora Maria Carmen.
With 240 members voting in the affirmative, 0 in the negative, and 0 abstentions, House Bill number 1270 is hereby approved on third and final reading. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move for the consideration on third reading of House Bill number 6571, printed copies of which were distributed to the members pursuant to the rules of the House. For this purpose, may I request that the Secretary General be directed to read the title of the bill and thereafter to call the roll for nominal voting.
Is there any objection? Chair is none. Motion is approved. The Secretary General is directed to read the title of the bill and thereafter call the roll for nominal voting.
House Bill 6571, an act providing additional guidelines in the acquisition of right-of-way, site, or location for the national government infrastructure projects, amending for the purpose of Republic Act Number 10752, otherwise known as the Right-of-Way Act. All of members in consideration on third reading of House Bill number 6571. Abalos, Abante, Abunda, Charon, Asidre, Acop, Adjong, Advincula, Agaraw, Alba, Albano, Almario, Almonte, Alonte, Alvarez, Jose, Alvarez, Mercedes, Alvarez, Pantaleon, Amante, Amatong, Ang, Angara, Aquino, Magsaysay, Arbison, Arenas, Argancia, Asisto, Atayde, Aumentado, Balindong, Barbers, Baronda, Barsaga, Bascug, Bautista Lim, Benitez, Bernos, Billones, Biron, Bodilla, Bondok, Bongalon, Bordado, Bosita, Briones, Rosas, Buhain, Bulot, Pigtang, Bustos, Cabredo, Cagas, Kahayin, Uy, Calderon, Calixto, Campos, Cawagdan, Cardema, Cari, Castro France, Castro Jane, Celeste, Chan, Chato, Chua, Chunggalaw ko, Angelica, Natasha, Ko Elizalde, Ko Pilar, Ko Juan, Ko Jaime, Ko Juan, Ko Mark, Colado, Collantes, Corvera, Cruz Ambrosio, Cruz Ricardo, Cuba, Coresma, Daguok, Dalipe, Dalog, Dayang Hirang, Daza, De Jesus, De Venecia, Defensor del Mar, de Los Santos, Dimaporo, Muhammad Kali, Dimaporo City, Amina, Junicio, Domingo Duavit, Dohali Duterte, Difo Ostino Ino, Difo Ostino Michael Carlos, D. Ian Paul, Ecleo Mano, Inciso Enverga Escudero, Spares Espina, Estrella, Yudela, Farinas Fernandez, Ferrer Antonio, Ferrer, Judith Marie, Flores Fortes, Frasco, Fresnedi, Fuentebella, Gallegos, Garcia Albert, Garcia Dante, Garcia Jose Arturo, Garcia Maria Angela, Garcia Pablo Jan, Garcia Vincent, Garjola, Garin, Gasataya, Gato, Go Ed Christopher, Go Mark, Goles, Gomez, Gonzaga, Gonzales Aurelio, Gonzales Neptali, Gonzales Sandro, Groseta, Guico, Guinto, Gullias, Gutierrez, Agidorn, Heresco, Hataman, Hernandez, Rera, Horbata, Javier, Ko Olga Ara, Ko Ricardo, Ko Wilton, Konghun, Labad-Labad, Lacson, Noel, Lagman, Lagun Daphne, Lagun Sani, Lara, Lasatin, D. Ligarda, Diban, Dim Kaichong, Loyola, Luis Tor, Lumayag, Macapagal, Arroyo, Maceda, Madrona, Magsina, Malapitan, Mangawang, Maniquis, Manuel, Maranyon, Marcoleta, Marcos, Mariano Hernandez, Marino, Marquez, Martinez,
Mr. Speaker.
Astura.
The Honorable Manuel is recognized.
My vote for the bill is no, and I'd like to explain my vote later. Thank you.
You can explain later. Please proceed.
Marquez, Martinez, Mastura, Matibag, Matugas, Mendoza, Mercado, Revilla, Miguel, Momo, Morden, Nava, Nisa, Noel, Nograles Juan, Fidel Felipe, Nograles Margarita, Nolasco, Ominal, Olaso, Rivares, Onchuan, Ordanes, Ortega, Juano Dizon, Pardiernos, Paduano, Paglas, Palma, Panaligan, Pancho, Panotes, Pascual, Peña, Pimentel, Plaza, Pleito, Provincia Sagabas, Pumarin, Puno, Kimbo, Rama Recto, Rehencia, Revilla Brian, Revilla Moromon, Jolo, Reyes Trillo, Rivera Robes, Rodriguez Eulogio, Rodriguez Rufus, Roman Romero, Romualdez Ferdinand Martin, Romualdez Eda Marie, Romualdo Romero Roque, Sakdaran sa Garbaria, sa Kaluran, sa Salceda, Sali, sa Limbangon, Salo, Salve Santos, sa Ulog, Silverio, Singson Richel, Singson Ronald, Singson Nihan, Solon Soriano, Suwan, Swansing Horacio, Swansing Micaela Angela, Suarez, Talyado, Tamayo, Tambunting, Tan Joseph, Tan Keith, Micah, Tan Reynolds Michael, Tan Samir, Tan Stephen James, Tan Tambu, Tan Chay, Tan Huatco, Tariela Chodoro, Teves Arnolfo, Teves Jose, Chanco, Cheng, Tolentino, Tulfo Jocelyn, Tulfo Ralph Wendel, Tupas Tutor, T. Umali, Unabe, Unga, Valeriano, Valmayor, Vargas, Vargas Alfonso, Velasco, Veloso Tuason, Vergara, Versosa, Villa, Villaferto Luis Raymond, Villaferto Miguel Luis, Villanueva, Villar, Villarasa Suarez, Villariga, Villago, Yap Crisantel, Yap Christopherson, Yap Edvic, Yap Eric, U. Divine Grace, U. Jason Victoria, Yulo, Zamora Amparo Maria, Zamora Maria Carmen, Zamora Isabel Maria, Subiri. Second call for consideration of third reading of House Bill number 6571. Abunda, Almonte, at Alvarez Pantaleon, Amatong, Arenas, Atay, Barbers, Bautista, Briones, Cari, Chungalao, Co, Pilar, Cruz, Ricardo, Daza, Duavi, Duterte, D. Ian, Paul, Enverga, Farinas, Flores, Garcia, Maria Angela, Goy, Christopher, Gonzaga, Gonzales, Sandro, Gulia, Sagidorn, Co, Wilton, Lagun, Daphne, Libanan, Mangawang, Marcoleta, Mendoza, Negraras, Juan Fidel Felipe, Paglas, Panotes, Parama, Regencia, Reyes, Trillo, Rodriguez, Eulogio, Roman, Romero, Sagarbaria, Silverio, Singson Richel, Suwan Suarez, Tan Reynolds Michael, Tan Samir, Tan Stephen James, Tan Tambut, Tan Chay, Teves Arnolfo, Cheng, Tulfo Ralph Wendel, Umali, Valeriano, Villa, Villafuerte Luis Raymond, Villafuerte Miguel Luis, Villar, Villarasa Suarez, Yap Edvic, Yap Eric, U. Divine Grace, U. Jason Victoria, Zamora Maria Carmen.
With 239 members voting in the affirmative, 3 in the negative, and 0 abstentions, House Bill 6571 is hereby approved on third and final reading. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move for the consideration on third reading of House Bill number 6683.
There is an explanation of vote.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we recognize the Honorable Representative of the Kabataan Party List, Honorable Manuel.
The gentleman has 3 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Nangangamba tayo na ang mga amyenda sa Right of Way Act ay magpapalala ng land grabbing at panggugulo sa buhay, kabuhayan at kultura ng ating mga kababayang Pilipino, kabilang ang ating national minorities sa ngalan ng Build Better More program ng kasalukuyang administrasyon. Kaya naman, Mr. Speaker, bumoboto ng no ang kabataan sa House Bill 6571. Maraming salamat.
Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move for the consideration on third reading of House Bill number 6683, copies of which were distributed to the members pursuant to the rules of the House. For this purpose, may I request the Secretary General be directed to read the title of the bill and thereafter to call the roll for nominal voting. So moved, Mr. Speaker.
Is there any objection? Hearing none, the Secretary General is directed to read the title of House Bill 6683 and thereafter call the roll for nominal voting.
House Bill number 6683, an act promoting inclusive and sustainable productivity growth, repealing for the purpose Republic Act number 6971, otherwise known as the Productivity Incentives Act of 1990. Roll call of members in consideration for House Bill number 6683. Abalos, Abante, Abunda, at Sharon, Asidre, Acop, Adyong, Advincula, Agaraw, Alba, Albano, Almario, Almonte, Alonte, Alvarez Jose, Alvarez Mercedes, Alvarez Pantaleon, Amante, Amatong, Ang, Angara, Aquino, Aquino Magsaysay, Orbison, Arenas, Arrogancia, Asistio, Atayde, Aumentado, Balindong, Barba, Barbers, Baronda, Barzaga, Bascug, Bautista, Bautista Lim, Benitez, Bernos, Billones, Biron, Bolilla, Bondok, Bongalon, Bordado, Bosita, Briones, Brosas, Buhain, Bulut, Begtang, Bustos, Cabredo, Cagas, Kahayon, Uy, Calderon, Calixto, Campos, Kawagdan, Cardema, Cari, Castro France, Castro Jane, Celeste Chan, Chato, Chua, Chungalao, Co Angelica Natasha, Co Elizalde, Co Pilar, Co Juanco Jaime, Co Juanco Mark, Colada, Coliantes, Corvera, Cruz Ambrosio, Cruz Ricardo, Cua Quaresma, Dagoac Dalipe, Dalog de Yanghirang, Daza de Jesus de Venecia, Defensor del Mar de los Santos, Dimaporo, Mohammed Khalid, Dimaporo City, Amina, Dionisio, Domingo, Duavit, Duhali, Duterte, D. Faustino Ino, D. Faustino Michael Carlos, D. Ian Paul, Ecleo, Emano, Enciso, Enverga, Escudero, Espares, Espina, Estrella, Udela, Farinas, Hernandez, Ferrer, Antonio, Ferrer, Juliet Marie, Flores, Fortes, Frasco, Fresnedi, Fontebella, Galeos, Garcia, Albert, Garcia, Dante, Garcia, Jose Arturo, Garcia, Maria Angela, Garcia, Pablo John, Garcia, Vincent, Gordiola, Garin, Gasataya, Gato, Go, Ed Christopher, Go, Mark, Goles, Gomez, Gonzaga, Gonzalez, Aurelio, Gonzalez, Neptali, Gonzalez, Sandro, Gariseta, Guico, Gintu, Gulias, Gutierrez, Hagedorn, Haresco, Hataman, Hernandez, Herrera, Horebata, Javier, Co, Olga, Ara, Co, Ricardo, Co, Wilton, Konghun, Labad, Labad, Lacson, Noel, Lagman, Lagon Daphne, Lagon Sunny, Lara Lazatin, Lee, Legarda, Lebanon, Limkay Chong, Loyola, Luistro, Lumayag, Macapagal, Arroyo, Maceda, Madrona, Magsino, Malapitan, Mangawang, Maniquez, Manuel, Marañon, Marcoleta, Marcos, Mariano Hernandez, Marino, Marquez, Martinez, Mastura, Matibag, Matugas, Mendoza, Mercado, Mercado Revilla, Miguel, Momo, Morden, Nava, Nisay, Noel, Nograles, Juan Fidel Felipe, Nograles, Margarita, Nolasco, Oamenal, Olaso, Olivares, Ongchuan, Ordanes, Ortega, Oano, Dizon, Padiernas, Paduano, Paglas, Palma, Panaligan, Pancho, Panotes, Pascual, Peña, Pimentel, Plaza, Plato, Primicia, Sagabas, Pumaren, Puno, Kimbo, Rama, Rector, Regencia, Revilla, Brian, Revilla, Ramonjolo, Reyes, Rillo, Rivera, Robes, Rodriguez, Eulogio, Rodriguez, Rufus, Roman, Romero, Romualdez, Ferdinand Martin, Romualdez, Yeda Marie, Romualdo, Romulo, Roque, Sakdalan, Sagarberia, Sakaluran, Salceda, Sali, Salimbangon, Salo, Salvame, Santos, Saulog, Silverio, Singson, Richel, Singson, Ronald, Singson, Mihan, Solon, Soriano, Suan, Swansing, Horacio, Swansing, Micaela, Angela, Suarez, Taliado, Tamayo, Tambunting, Tan Joseph, Tan Keith, Micah, Tan Reynolds, Michael, Tan Samir, Tan Stephen James, Tan Tambut, Tan Chay, Tan Huatco, Tariela, Teodoro, Teves Arnulfo, Teves Jose, Tiangco, Tieng, Tolentino, Tulfo, Jocelyn, Tulfo, Ralph Wendell, Tupas, Chutor, T. Umali, Unabia, Unga, Valeriano, Valmayor, Vargas, Vargas Alfonso, Velasco, Veloso Tuazon, Vergara, Verzosa, Villa, Villaferte, Luis Raymond, Villaferte, Miguel Luis, Villanueva, Villar, Villaraza, Suarez, Villarica, Villago, Yap Christiantel, Yap Christopherson, Yap Edvic, Yap Eric, U. Divina Grace, U. Jazel Victoria, Yulo, Zamora, Amparo Maria, Zamora Maria Carmen, Zamora Isabel Maria, Zubiri. Second call for consideration and third reading of House Bill number 6683, Abunda, Almonte, Alvarez, Pantaleon, Amatong, Arenas, Atayde, Barbers, Bautista, Briones, Cari, Chungalao, Pilar, Cruz, Ricardo, Duavit, Duterte, D. Ian Paul, Enverga, Farinas, Flores, Garcia, Maria Angela, Goed, Christopher, Gonzaga, Gonzalez, Sandro, Bulias, Hagedorn, Co. Wilton, Lagon, Daphne, Lebanon, Mangawang, Marcoleta, Mendoza, Nograles, Juan Fidel.
The Honorable Manuel.
I was called earlier and my vote is no. I would like to explain my vote later. Thank you.
Noted. Please proceed.
Nograles, Juan Fidel Felipe, Paglas, Panotes, Rama, Regencia, Reyes, Rillo, Rodriguez, Eulogio, Roman, Romero, Sagarberia, Silverio, Singson, Rochelle, Suwan, Suarez, Tan Reynolds, Michael, Tan Samir, Tan Stephen James, Tan Tambut, Tan Chay, Teves Arnulfo, Tieng, Tulfo, Ralph Wendell, Umali, Valeriano, Villaferte, Luis Raymond, Villaferte, Miguel Luis, Villar, Villaraza, Suarez, Yap Edvic, Yap Eric, U. Divina Grace, U. Jazel Victoria.
With 242 members voting in the affirmative, 3 in the negative, and 0 abstentions, House Bill number 6683 is hereby approved on third and final reading. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we recognize the Honorable Raul Manuel for the explanation of his vote. So moved, Mr. Speaker.
The Majority Leader.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, I move that we first recognize the Honorable Arlene Brosas.
The lady has 3 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, Gabriela Women's Party votes no to House Bill 6683 or the Enterprise Productivity Bill. Pagpapalawig ito ng mga pamamaraan ng kumpanya para lalong pigain ang mga manggagawa alang-alang sa mas malaking tubo sa tabing ng Productivity Improvement Program. For many years, Philippine labor productivity across economic sectors has increased by 600%. Yet, adjustments in wages pale in comparison to this astronomic increase in labor productivity. Nananatiling nakapako ang tunay na halaga ng sahod sa ilalim ng kawalan ng signifikanteng aumento sa sahod at pambabarat ng regional wage boards. Overall, labor productivity remains relatively low compared to our ASEAN neighbors and other countries. And this is not because of the gaps in the Productivity Incentives Act. We believe the country's labor productivity cannot be improved by productivity-based programs alone. Kailangan natin ugatin ang problema sa atrasadong produksyon at low value-added na production na mayroon sa ating bansa. Despite decades of goading foreign investment, production in several industries has remained backward and pre-industrial. Mekanismo ang mga productivity improvement programs tulad ng commission-based, performance-based bonus, quota system, at metric system lalo sa BPO industry para lalong pigain ang mga manggagawa habang lalong hindi natutumbasan ang kanilang lakas paggawa. This will result to more unpaid labor and potentially worse exploitation of workers. Mr. Speaker, dagdag sahod ang kagyat na panawagan ng mga manggagawa sa buong bansa. Hindi pagbabago sa mekanismo ng productivity-based pay. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we recognize the Honorable Raul Manuel for the explanation of his vote.
Explanation for 3 minutes.
Salamat, Mr. Speaker. Naniniwala ang kabataan na mahalaga ang karapatan ng mga manggagawa para sa makatarungan at nakabubuhay na sahod. Ngunit pinagbabangga ng panukalang batas para amyendahan ang Productivity Incentives Act ang karampatang kompensasyon para sa manggagawa doon sa dagdag insentiba para sa mga kumpanya at management nito. Maaaring maging kasangkapan ang panukalang batas para hindi kilalanin ang mga strike at lockout bilang lehitimong forma ng mga manggagawa para ipaabot ang kanilang mga hinaing. Tinatanggal ang garantiya na makakuha ang mga manggagawa ng kanilang incentive ng 6 na buwan mula sa pagpapatupad ng kanilang kumpanya ng Productivity Incentive Program. Dahil sa mga nabanggit, bumoboto ng no ang Kabataan Party List sa House Bill 6683. Salamat, Mr. Speaker.
Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move for the consideration on third reading of House Bill number 6716, copies of which were distributed to the members pursuant to the rules of the House. For this purpose, may I request that the Secretary General be directed to read the title of the bill and thereafter to call the roll for nominal voting. So moved, Mr. Speaker.
Is there any objection? Hearing none, the motion is approved. The Secretary General is directed to read the title of the bill and thereafter call the roll for nominal voting.
House Bill number 6716, an act mandating the establishment of fisher-folk resettlement areas by the Department of Agriculture, Department of Human Settlements and Urban Development, Department of Environment and Natural Resources, and local government units, amending for the purpose Section 108 of Republic Act number 8550, otherwise known as the Philippine Fisheries Code of 1998, as amended by Republic Act number 10654. Roll call of members in consideration on third reading of House Bill number 6716. Abalos, Abante, Abunda, Charon, Asidre, Acop, Adyong, Advincula, Agaraw, Alba, Albano, Almario, Almonte, Alonte, Alvarez Jose, Alvarez Mercedes, Alvarez Pantaleon, Amante, Amatong, Ang, Angara, Aquino, Aquino Magsaysay, Arbison, Arenas, Arrogancia, Asistio, Atayde, Aumentado, Balindong, Barba, Barbers, Baronda, Barzaga, Bascook, Bautista, Bautista Lim, Benitez, Bernos, Billones, Biron, Bolilla, Bondok, Mongalon, Cordado, Bosita, Briones, Brosas, Buhain, Bulot,
Mr.
Bigtang,
Speaker, Mr. Speaker, my vote is no, and I would like to explain my vote later.
Noted.
Buhain, Bulot Begtang, Bustos, Cabredo, Cagas, Kahayon Uy, Calderon, Calixto, Campos, Kawagdan, Cardema, Cari, Castro Franz, Castro Jean, Celeste, Chan, Chato, Chua, Chungalao, Ko Angelica Natasha, Ko Elizalde, Ko Pilar, Cojuangco Jaime, Cojuangco Mark, Colada, Colliantes, Corvera, Cruz Ambrosio, Cruz Ricardo, Cua, Quaresma, Dagook, Dalipe, Dalog, Dayang Hirang, Daza, De Jesus, De Venecia, Defensor, Del Mar, De Los Santos, Dimaporo Muhammad Kali, Dimaporo City Amina, Dionisio Domingo Duavit Duhali Duterte, D. Faustino Ino, D. Faustino Michael, D. Ian Paul, Ecleo Emano Enciso Enverga Escudero, Espares Espina, Estrella, Yudela, Fariñas, Fernandez, Ferrer Antonio, Ferrer Juliet Marie, Flores, Fortes, Frasco, Fresnedi, Fantebella, Galeos, Garcia Albert, Garcia Dante, Garcia Jose Arturo, Garcia Maria Angela, Garcia Pablo Jan, Garcia Vincent, Guardiola, Garin, Gasataya, Gato, Go Ed Christopher, Go Mark, Goles, Gomez, Gonzaga, Gonzales Aurelio, Gonzales Neptali, Gonzales Sandro, Goriseta, Guico, Ginto, Gulias, Gutierrez, Hagedorn, Haresco, Hataman, Hernandez, Herrera, Horebata, Javier, Co Olga Ara, Co Ricardo, Co Wilton, Kunghun, Labad-Labad, Lacson, Lacsonoel, Lagman, Lagon Daphne, Lagon Sani, Lara, Lazatin, Liligarda, Libanan, Limcachong, Loyola, Luistro, Lumayag, Makapagal Arroyo, Maceda, Madrona, Magsino, Malapitan, Mangawang, Maniquis, Manuel, Marañon, Marcoleta, Marcos, Mariano Hernandez, Marinho, Marquez, Martinez, Mastura, Matibag, Matugas, Mendoza, Mercado, Mercado Revilla, Miguel Momo, Morden, Nava, Nisay, Noel, Nograles, Juan Fidel, Nograles, Margarita, Nolasco, Umaminal, Olaso, Olivares, Ongchuan, Ordanes, Ortega, Uwano, Dizon, Padiernos, Paduano, Paglas, Palma, Panaligan, Pancho, Panotes, Pascual, Peña, Pimentel, Plaza, Pleito, Primicia Sagabas, Pumaren, Puno, Kimbo, Rama, Recto, Regencia, Revilla Brian, Revilla Ramonjolo, Reyes, Cirillo, Rivera, Robes, Rodriguez Eulogio, Rodriguez Rufus, Roman, Romero, Romualdez Ferdinand Martin, Romualdez Iada Marie, Romualdo, Romulo, Roque, Sakdalan, Sagarbaria, Sakaluran, Salceda, Sali, Salimbangon, Salo, Salvame, Santos, Saulug, Silverio, Singson Richel, Singson Ronald, Singson Mihan, Solon, Soriano, Suwan, Swansing Horacio, Swansing Micaela Angela, Suarez, Talyado, Tamayo, Tambunting, Tan Joseph, Tan Keith Micah, Tan Reynolds Michael, Tan Samir, Tan Stephen James, Tan Tambut, Tan Chay, Tan Huatco, Tariela, Teodoro, Teves Arnolfo, Teves Jose, Tiangco, Tiang, Tolentino, Tulfo Jocelyn, Tulfo Ralph Wendell, Tupas, Dr. T. Umali Unabia, Unga, Valeriano, Valmayor, Vargas, Vargas Alfonso, Velasco, Veloso Tuazon, Vergara, Versosa, Villa, Villafuerte Luis Raymond, Villafuerte Miguel Luis, Villanueva, Villar, Villaraza Suarez, Villarica, Villago, Yap Christian Tel, Yap Christopher Son, Yap Edvic, Yap Eric, U. Divina Gris, U. Jazel Victoria, Yulo, Zamora Amparo Maria, Zamora Maria Carmen, Zamora Isabel Maria, Zubiri. Second call for consideration on third reading of House Bill Number 6716. Abunda, Almonte, Alvarez Pantaleon, Amatong, Arenas, Atayde, Barbers, Bautista, Briones, Cari, Chungalao, Copilar, Cruz Ricardo, Duavit, Duterte, D. Ian Paul, Enverga, Farinas, Flores, Garcia Maria Angela, Goed Christopher, Gonzaga, Gonzales Sandro, Gulyas, Hagedorn, Co-Wilton, Lagon Daphne, Libanan, Mangawang, Marcoleta, Mendoza, Nograles Juan Fidel, Paglas, Panotes, Rama, Regencia, Reyes, Rillo, Rodriguez Eulogio, Roman, Romero, Sagarbaria, Silverio, Singson Rochelle, Suwan, Suarez, Tan Reynolds Michael, Tan Samir, Tan Stephen James, Tan Tambut, Tan Chay, Teves Arnolfo, Tieng, Tulfo Ralph Wendell, Umali, Valeriano, Villa, Villafuerte Luis Raymond, Villafuerte Miguel Luis, Villar, Villaraza Suarez, Yap Edvic, Yap Eric, U. Divina Gris, U. Jazel Victoria.
With 242 members voting in the affirmative, 3 in the negative, and 0 abstentions, House Bill Number 6716 is hereby approved on third and final reading. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, may we recognize Representative Arlene Brosas for the explanation of her vote.
The lady has 3 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this representation votes no to House Bill 6716, or the proposed measure amending Section 108 of the Republic Act Number 8550, otherwise known as the Philippine Fisheries Code of 1998, as amended by Republic Act Number 10654. Ang mga probisyon ng Republic Act 8500 Fisheries Code of 1998 ay lumalabag sa fishing rights. or karapatang mangisda. Nakapabor ito para sa mga malalaking operator ng commercial fishing vessels at aquaculture farms. May mga provision din ito na nagmamandato sa mga mangingisda na magbayad ng napakaraming bayarin para sa pagpaparehistro, multa at iba pa. Therefore, any amendments to the Fisheries Code will further violate the fishing rights of our fisher folks. Kung ilalapat ang Section 108, Fisher Folk Settlement Areas. Sa aktwal, resettlement ang nararanasan ng mga mangingisda. Hindi nito pinoproteksyonan ang mga nakatayo ng komunidad ng mga mangingisda. Demolisyon lamang ng mga mangingisda at mga maralitang lungsod ang epekto nito na lubhang makakaapekto sa hanap buhay nila. Maaari rin itong gamitin para matanggal ang mga fisher folk sa coastal area para sa pagdevelop at pagbibigay daan sa privatisasyon at conversion. Sa huli, mga mangingisda ang mahihirapan dahil itatapon at iipunin sila sa settlement area na maaaring malayo sa kanilang pangisdaan. Maaari ring sa sobrang layo ng kanilang pangingisdaan, mapipilitan silang sabay-sabay na mangisda sa isang lugar o sa huli ay huminto na lamang. Mr. Speaker, this representation firmly stands that this proposed measure will demolish fishing settlements. If we want to help our fisher folks who largely contribute to our food security, all coastal communities should be declared fishing settlements. We must also provide production subsidies and support to them. For these reasons, we vote no to House Bill 6716. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move for the consideration on third reading of House Bill number 6717, printed copies of which were distributed to the members of the House. For this purpose, may I request that the Secretary General be directed to read the title of the bill, joint resolution, and thereafter to call the roll of nominal voting.
Is there any objection? Hearing none, motion is approved. The Secretary General is directed to read the title of the bill and thereafter call the roll for nominal voting.
House Bill 6717, an act suspending the implementation of the use of mother tongue as the medium of instruction for kindergarten to grade 3, provided under Section 4 of Republic Act No. 10533, otherwise known as the Enhanced Basic Education Act of 2013. Roll call of members in consideration on third reading of House Bill number 6717. Abalos, Abande, Abunda, Charon, Asidre, Acop, Adjong, Advincula, Agaraw, Alba, Albano, Almario, Almonte, Alonte, Alvarez, Jose, Alvarez, Mercedes, Alvarez, Pantaleon, Amante, Amatong, Ang Angara, Aquino, Magsaysay, Arbison, Arenas, Arrogancia, Asisto, Ataide, Aumentado, Balindong, Barbers, Baronda, Barzaga, Bascug, Bautista, Din, Benitez, Bernos, Billones, Biron, Bolilla, Bondo, Bongalon, Bordado, Bosita, Briones, Brosas, Buhain, Bulot, Bagtang, Bustos, Cabredo, Cagas, Kahayin, Uy, Calderon, Calisto, Campos, Cawagdan, Cardema, Cari, Castro, France, Castro, Jane, Celesta, Chato, Chua, Chungkalaw.
Mr. Speaker,
The lady from Active Chairs.
my vote is no, and I will explain my vote later.
Noted. Please proceed.
Ko Angelica Natasha, ko Elizalde, ko Pilar, ko Juan, ko Jaime, ko Juan, ko Mark, ko Lada, Collantes, Corvera, Cruz Ambrosio, Cruz Ricardo, Cuba, Quaresma, Dagok, Dalipe, Dalog, Dayang Hirang, Daza, De Jesus, De Venecia, Defensor, Del Mar, De Los Santos, Dimaporo, Muhammad Gali, Dimaporo, City, Amina, Dionisio, Domingo, Duavi, Duhali, Duterte, Di Faustino, Ino, Di Faustino, Michael Cardos, Di Ian Paul, Ecleo, Emano, Inciso, Invego, Escudero, Esparas, Espinas, Estrella, Udela, Farinas, Fernandez, Ferrer Antonio, Ferrer Juliet Marie, Flores, Fortes, Frasco, Frastidi, Fuentebella, Galeos, Garcia Albert, Garcia Dante, Garcia Jose Oturo, Garcia Maria Angela, Garcia Pablo Jan, Garcia Vincent, Garjola, Garin, Gasataya, Gato, Goes, Christopher, Mark, Goles, Gomez, Gonzaga, Gonzales, Aurelio, Gonzales, Neptali, Gonzales, Sandro, Groseta, Guigo, Ginto, Gullas, Gutierrez, Sagidor, Haresco, Hataman, Hernandez, Herrera, Horibata, Javier, Co, Olga Ara, Co, Ricardo, Co, Wilton, Kunghun, Labad, Lacson, Noel, Lagman, Lagun Daphne, Lagun Sani, Lara, Lasatin, Lee, Ligarda, Libanan, Lim Kaychong, Loyola, Luis Tor, Lumayag, Makapagal Arroyo, Masayda, Madrona, Magsino, Malapitan, Mangawang, Manikis, Manuel.
Mr. Speaker,
The Honorable Manuel.
my vote is no, and I'll explain my vote later. Thank you.
Noted.
Maranyon, Marcoleta, Marcos, Mariana Hernandez, Marino, Marquez, Martinez, Mastura, Matibag, Matugas, Mendoza, Mercado, Mercado Revilla, Miguel Momo, Morde, Nava, Nisay, Noel, Nograles, Buen, Fidel, Felipe, Nograles, Margarita, Nolasco, Omenel, Olaso, Olivares, Onchuan, Ordanes, Ortega, Urbano, Dizon, Padianos, Paduano, Paglas, Palma, Panaligan, Pancho Panotes, Pascual, Peña, Pimentel, Plaza, Plato, Pimicio, Sagabas, Pumarin, Puno, Kimbo, Rama, Recto, Regencia, Revilla, Brian, Revilla, Ramonjolo, Reyes, Rillo, Rivera, Robes, Rodriguez, Eulogio, Rodriguez, Rufus, Roman, Romero, Romualdez, Ferdinand Martin, Romualdez, Sieda Marie, Romualdo, Romulo, Roque, Sakdalan, sa Garbaria, sa Kaluran, Salceda, Sali, sa Limbangon, Salos, Alvame, Santos, sa Ulog, Silverio, Singson Richel, Singson Ronald, Singson Nihan, Solang Soriano, Suan, Sing Horacio, Swansea, Micaela, Angela, Suarez, Talyado, Tamayo, Tambunting, Tan Joseph, Tan Keith, Micah, Tan Reynolds, Michael, Tan Samia, Tan Stephen James, Tan Tambu, Tan Chay, Tan Huaco, Tariela, Chedoro, Teves Arnolfo, Teves Jose, Chanco, Cheng, Tolentino, Tulfo, Jocelyn, Tulfo, Ralph Rendel, Tupas, Tutor, T. Umari, Unabi, Ungab, Valeriano, Valmero, Vargas, Alfonso, Velasco, Veloso, Tuason, Vergara, Versosa, Villa, Villafete, Luis Raymond, Villafete, Miguel Luis, Villanueva, Villar, Villarasa, Suarez, Villarica, Villago, Yap Crisantel, Yap Christopherson, Yap Edric, Yap Eric, Udivini Grace, UJ Sil Victoria, Yulo, Zamora Amparo Maria, Zamora Maria Carmen, Zamora Isabel Maria, Subiri. Second call for consideration on third reading of House Bill number 6717. Abunda, Almonte, Alvarez Pantaleon, Amatong, Arenas, Atayde, Barbers, Bautista, Briones, Cari, Chungalao, Popular, Cruz Ricardo, Duavit, Duterte, D. Ian Paul, Verga, Farinas, Flores, Garcia Maria Angela, Go, Ed Christopher, Gonzaga, Gonzales, Sandro, Gulya, Sagidorn, Co, Wilton, Lagun, Daphne, Libanan, Mangawang, Marcoleta, Mendoza, Nograles, Fidel Felipe, Paglas, Panotes, Rama, Regencia, Reyes, Cirillo, Rodriguez, Eulogio, Roman, Romero, Sagrabaria, Silverio, Singson Richel, Suan, Suarez, Tan Reynolds, Michael, Tan Samir, Tan Stephen James, Tan Tambutan, Chay, Teves Arnolfo, Cheng, Tulfo, Ralph Wendel, Umali, Valeriano, Villa, Villafeto, Luis Raymond, Villafeto, Miguel Luis, Villar, Villarasa Suarez, Yap Edvic, Yap Eric, U. Divina Grace, U. Jason Victoria.
With 240 members voting in the affirmative, 3 in the negative, and 2 abstentions, House Bill number 6717 is hereby approved on third and final reading. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, may we recognize Congresswoman Franz Castro for the explanation of her vote.
The Honorable Castro has 3 minutes to explain her vote.
Maraming salamat, Mr. Speaker. Binaha ang committee ng position paper ng mga organisasyon at department at iba pa na naglahad ng scientificong batayan laban sa suspension at konkretong karanasan na nagpapatibay ng pagiging epektibo nito upang pabutihin ang learning outcomes ng mga bata sa maraming subject. Halimbawa ay ang UNICEF, Save Our Children, Philippine Book Publishing Association of the Philippines, Movement for Safe, Equitable, Quality and Relevant Education, Linguistic Society of the Philippines, at 170 plus Talaytayan MLE Incorporated. Mr. Speaker, suspension, parang pinarusahan natin ang mga bata at mga guro sa kabagalan at pagkukulang ng ahensya, ang Department of Education at ang KWF, at sa pagtanggi ng administrasyon at ng kongresong ito nang bigyan ng sapat na pondo ang MTMLE. Masasayang ang mga efforts ng mga researchers, education, institutions at iba pang mga nagbuhos ng pagod, kasanayan, expertise at maging sariling pera upang makapag-develop lamang ng mga learning materials. Ito ay malakas na reklamong ipinapaabot nila dahil marami sa kanila ay mga nasa districts na hindi certified ready o malabong ma-certify ng DepEd na ready. Dahil halimbawa, walang program supervisor o trained teachers para sa particular na lengguwahe. Bagamat sinasabi natin na tutol tayo sa suspension, pero kami po ay natutuwa dahil dahil bilang pangunahing nagsulong ng FSL or Act 11106 na pinakinggan ang inaing ng mga Filipino deaf community na wag silang pigilang gamitin ang kanilang L1. At marami sa mga Filipino deaf, ito yung mga natatanging mga lengguwahe nila, pagkilala ito sa kabila ng matinding kakulangan sa pondo, kagamitan, personnel at training sa DepEd para ipatupad ang MTM-LE sa kanila. Ang polisiya o programang ito ay kailangan nila. Pero kung may ganito para sa Filipino deaf community, bakit walang katumbas na pagkilala para sa iba pang mga kabataang Filipino? Napakababang kalidad ng edukasyon, matindi ang kahirapang ididulot ng batang lumad, halimbawa kung Filipino o Ingles ang gamiting medium of instruction sa kanila, lalo na sa mga batayang subject at aralin. Isama na dapat natin sa ang mother tongue-based multilingual education policy sa mga bumubukas na posibilidad na i-review at isama ito sa Education EDCOM 2. So, imbis na ibitin at sa hangin at sa kawalan ng kasiguraduhan ang paggamit ng mother tongue o L1 bilang medium of instructions, dapat nga i-review ito. Alamin natin kung ano ay mga ugat ng problema, pakinggan ang mga guro at iba pang mga education stakeholders, nasaan ang mga bara, kakulangan, at tukuyin kung ano-ano yung mga kagyat, short-term, medium-term solutions, at syempre, kailangan ng solidong political will upang gawin ang mga hakbang na ito, simula sa paglalagay ng sapat na direktang pondo. So, thank you po, Mr. Speaker.
Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, may you also recognize Representative Raul Manuel for the explanation of his vote.
The Honorable Manuel has 3 minutes to explain his vote.
Bumoboto ang representasyong ito ng no sa panukalang isuspinde ang pagpapatupad ng mother tongue-based learning. Naniniwala ang kabataan na hindi kailangang itigil ang paggamit ng sariling wika na kinalakihan ng mga estudyante para sa kanilang pag-aaral, para lamang matasa at maisaayos ang pagpapatupad ng mother tongue-based learning. Ang pagpapatuloy ng pagpapatupad nito ay mahalaga upang tuloy-tuloy na makabawi mula sa learning poverty na naranasan sa gitna ng pandemya at para makita ang mga puwang na kailangang punan ng Department of Education at Komisyon sa Wikang Filipino sa paggamit nito. Ang tidig ng kabataan ay para sa edukasyong dekalidad at abot kamay para sa lahat. At ang pagsuspinde ng mother tongue-based learning ay tumutunggali rito. Kaya naman, muli, bumoboto tayo ng no sa House Bill 6717. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move for the consideration on third reading of House Bill number 6718 pursuant to the rules of the House. For this purpose, may I request that the Secretary General be directed to read the title of the bill and thereafter call the roll for nominal voting.
Is there any objection? Hearing none, motion is approved. The Secretary General is directed to read the title of the bill and thereafter call the roll for nominal voting.
House Bill number 6718, an act providing protection and incentives to freelance workers. Roll call of members in consideration on third reading of House Bill number 6718. Abalos, Abante, Abunda, at Sharon, Asidre, Acop, Adyong, Advincula, Agaraw, Alba, Albano, Almario, Almonte, Alonte, Alvarez Jose, Alvarez Mercedes, Alvarez Pantaleon, Amante, Amatong, Angara, Aquino, Aquino Magsaysay, Arbison, Arenas, Arrogancia, Asistio, Atay de Aumentado, Balindong, Barba, Barbers, Baronda, Barzaga, Bascug, Bautista, Bautista Lim, Benitez, Bernos, Bellones, Biron, Bolilia, Bondoc, Bongalon, Bordado, Bosita, Briones, Brosas, Buhain, Bulut Begtang, Bustos, Cabredo, Cagas, Kahayon, Uy, Calderon, Calixto, Campos, Kawagdan, Cardema, Cari, Castro France, Castro Jane, Celeste, Chan, Chato, Chua, Chungalao, Co Angelica Natasha, Co Elizalde, Co Pilar, Co Juanco Jaime, Co Juanco Mark, Colada, Coliantes, Corvera, Cruz Ambrosio, Cruz Ricardo, Cua, Quaresma, Dagook, Dalipe, Dalog, Dayang Hirang, Daza de Jesus, De Venecia, Defensor del Mar de los Santos, de Maporo, Mohammed Khalid, de Maporo City, Amina, Dionisio, Domingo, Duavit, Duhali, Duterte, D. Faustino Ino, D. Faustino Michael Carlos, D. Ian Paul, Ecleo, Emano, Enciso, Enverga, Escudero, Espares, Espina, Estrella, Udela, Fariñas, Fernandez, Ferrer, Antonio, Ferrer, Juliet Marie, Flores, Fortes, Frasco, Fresnedi, Fentebella, Galeos, Garcia Albert, Garcia Dante, Garcia Jose Arturo, Garcia Maria Angela, Garcia Pablo John, Garcia Vincent, Guardiola, Garin, Gasataya, Gato, Go Ed Christopher, Go Mark, Goles, Gomez, Gonzaga, Gonzalez, Aurelio, Gonzalez, Neptali, Gonzalez, Sandro, Guriseta, Guico, Gintu, Gulias, Gutierrez, Hagedorn, Haresco, Hataman, Hernandez, Herrera, Horibata, Javier, Ko Olga Ara, Ko Ricardo, Ko Wilton, Konghun, Labad Labad, Lacson, Lacson Noel, Lagman, Lagon Daphne, Lagon Sunny, Lara, Lezatin, Lee, Legarda, Lebanon, Limkay Chong, Loyola, Luistro, Lumayag, Macapagal Arroyo, Maceda, Madrone, Magsino, Malapitan, Mangawang, Maniquez, Manuel, Marañon,
Mr. Speaker.
Marcoleta.
Yes, the gentleman from Kabataan.
My vote is yes, but I would like to explain my vote later. Thank you.
Noted. Please proceed.
Marcos, Mariano Hernandez, Marino, Marquez, Martinez, Mastura, Matibag, Matugas, Mendoza, Mercado, Mercado Revilla, Miguel, Momo, Morden, Nava, Nisay, Noel, Nograles, Juan Fidel Felipe, Nograles, Margarita, Nolasco, Oamenal, Olaso, Olivares, Ongchuan, Ordanes, Ortega, Owano, Dizon, Padiernos, Paduano, Paglas, Palma, Panaligan, Pancho, Panotes, Pascual, Peña, Pimentel, Plaza, Plato, Primicias, Agabas, Pumaren, Puno, Kimbo, Rama, Recto, Regencia, Revilla Brian, Revilla Ramon Jolo, Reyes, Rillo, Rivera, Robes, Rodriguez Elohio, Rodriguez Rufus, Roman Romero, Romualdez Ferdinand Martin, Romualdez Yeda Marie, Romualdo, Romulo, Roque, Sakdalan, Sagarberia, Sakaluran, Salceda, Sally, Salimbangon, Salo, Salvame, Santos, Saulog, Silverio, Singson Richel, Singson Ronald, Singson Mihan, Solon, Soriano, Suwan, Swansing Horacio, Swansing Micaela Angela Suarez, Talyado, Tamayo, Tambunting, Tan Joseph, Tan Keith Micah, Tan Reynolds Michael, Tan Samir, Tan Stephen James, Tan Tambut, Tan Chai, Tan Huatco, Teriela, Teodoro, Teves Arnulfo, Teves Jose, Tiangco, Tieng, Tolentino, Tulfo Jocelyn, Tulfo Ralph Wendell, Tupas, Chator, T. Umali, Unabia, Unga, Valeriano, Valmayor, Vargas, Vargas, Alfonso, Velasco, Veloso Tuazon, Vergara, Verzosa, Villa, Villaferte, Luis Raymond, Villaferte, Miguel Luis, Villanueva, Villar, Villaraza Suarez, Villarica, Villago, Yap Christian Tel, Yap Christopherson, Yap Edvic, Yap Eric, U Divina Grace, U Jazel Victoria, Yulo, Zamora Amparo Maria, Zamora Maria Carmen, Zamora Isabel Maria, Zubiri. Second call for consideration and third reading of House Bill number 6718, Abunda, Almonte, Alvarez, Pantaleon, Amatong, Atayde, Bautista, Briones, Cari, Chongalao, Copilar, Cruz Ricardo, Duavit, Duterte, and Verga, Farinas, Flores, Garcia Maria Angela, Goed Christopher, Gonzaga, Gonzalez Sandro, Gulias, Hagedorn, Ho Wilton, Lagon Daphne, Libanan, Mangawang, Marcoleta, Mendoza, Nograles, Juan Fidel Felipe, Paglas, Panotes, Rama, Regencia, Reyes, Rillo, Rodriguez, Elohio, Roman, Romero, Sagarberia, Silverio, Singson, Richel, Suwan Suarez, Tan Samir, Tan Stephen James, Tan Tambut, Tan Chay, Teves Arnulfo, Tieng, Tulfo Ralph Wendell, Umali, Valeriano, Villa, Villaferte, Luis Raymond, Villar, Villaraza Suarez, Yap Edvic, Yap Eric, U Divina Grace, U Jazel Victoria.
With 250 members voting in the affirmative, 0 in the negative, and 0 abstentions, House Bill number 6718 is hereby approved on third and final reading. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that the honorable gentleman from Kabataan Party List, Representative Manuel, be recognized to explain his vote.
The gentleman has 3 minutes.
Mr. Speaker, we welcome the presence of legislation which protects the rights of freelancers to proper compensation and protection and offers avenues of complaint when these rights are denied to them. However, we must recognize that the resurgence of the freelancing industry or the gig economy is a reflection of the lack of quality employment in the country, pushing many people towards these job options. This lack of quality employment is prompted by the absence of genuine national industries and the government's poor response to issues of labor rights. The proposed legislation, as it is right now, does not delve into the phenomenon of big foreign companies hiring freelance, virtual, or online assistants in the Philippines and paying them very low rates compared to the rates they usually pay for the same job. we should also stick to the principle of compensating workers for the work they do, rather than where they are based. Companies who exploit workers here in the Philippines using these practices should be covered by this law and mandated to pay the same rates that they usually pay a worker for doing the same job. We hope that these concerns should or could be addressed in future deliberations in the bicameral session for the bill. Nonetheless, with this, we vote yes to House Bill 6718. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I also move that the Honorable Arlene Brosas from Gabriela Party List be recognized to explain her vote on House Bill number 6571.
The lady has 3 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this was on the previous measure of House Bill 6571. Mr. Speaker, may I manifest that my explanation of no vote to House Bill 6571 be inserted into the records, Mr. Speaker.
Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that all bills, 6 of them, approved on third reading today, be immediately transmitted to the Senate.
Is there any objection? Hearing none, motion is approved. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we suspend session for a few minutes.
Session is suspended. Session is resumed.
Mr.
Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move to adjourn session until 3 o'clock tomorrow, February 7.
Is there any objection? Hearing none, session is adjourned until tomorrow, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Picture what picture?
Recording stopped.
Ready? 1, 2, 3.